As round 4 begins, Cleverly still in trouble.
See how he's going at the body? He knows he hurt Cleverly to the body at the end of that last round. And body shots are not easy to recover from like head shots are.
Too much. This is too much, and referee Terry O'Connor has stopped the fight. This time it is over, and Sergey Kovalev has a 4th-round TKO, and he made it look easy.
Very easy.
Well, welcome everyone to the 70th edition of the Next Big Pod. And sorry about that, we had some technical difficulties. I meant to play Nathan Cleverly's victorious fight against Jurgen Braehmer from the past weekend, but some other fight snuck in there. Sorry about that to all of our Welsh listeners. I'm joined today by Ainsley, Carpy and Mr. Dewey Powell of Boxing Wales. Boxing Wales, an official sponsor of the pod. We'll jump straight into it and review the German card from the weekend. That was the biggest fight of the weekend, I think, by a fair margin. Nathan Cleverly picking up a second, should we call it a title belt? I don't know how to word this because I'm aware that we don't want to shit on it too much because it was a good win. But Dewey, you were there, mate. You were covering the event live for Next Big Pod. How first of all, what were your thoughts? And yeah, just kick us off if you want. Say whatever you like. We haven't had a chance to pick your brains yet.
All right. First and foremost, fuck you for that introduction, chap. Moving swiftly on because I want to forget that night in August 2013. I got to Neue Brandenburg, which I've got to say, I've been to Germany before. I've never been to East Germany. And, you know, like everything you think of East Germany, obviously in regards to the Soviet Union, it is just as shit as you imagine. Jesus Christ. It's like end of the world. But Neue Brandenburg is the most random place in the world to host a fight. And they've had quite a couple of they've lost as well. Steve Cunningham lost his belt to Hernandez in the same place. And Sebastian Sylvester lost to Daniel Gill. So for some reason, they always have boxing there. And it was a decent enough crowd, probably, I'd say, just under 4,000. It was a bit similar to the Cardiff Ice Arena. But it was a really strange crowd. When we turned up to the venue, and we didn't, because we'd obviously never been there before, we didn't know if we were in the right place because there was a massive queue outside. And they were all like 40, 50-year-old couples who looked like remarkably middle class. You would have loved it, Shep. There wasn't a working class person in sight, so it was a bit strange, you know, for us being Valley Boys. But I saw Nathan in the afternoon to sort tickets and whatever, and he was in a really good place. I think by that stage, that was about 1 o'clock, and he'd put on £14, which was a bit more than he's put on, say, like we'll take the Funfara fight as a barometer. I think he put on like £12 by the time he fought for that. And this was by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He put on £14, and he still had plenty of water and food to drink and eat. So I think, you know, size-wise, he was a bit bigger than Braehmer on the night, and I knew he would be, but I didn't expect him to put on that extra £4 or £5. But yeah, he was in a really good place. When he talked tactics, I could see the sense of what he was saying of when Braehmer fights. A lot of his fights, if they go the distance, he banks 5 or 6. Well, he banks the first half of the fight, really. And then if they're good enough to keep up with him, he'll fade in the latter half of the fight. And but he's done enough work early on. So Nathan's tactics were to match him, early on, so he doesn't build up that lead. So the second half of the fight is still late to fight for, so Braehmer can't fade. If he fades, he'll lose the fight. It means that Braehmer still has to engage. And like, you know, I could kind of see that translating into the fight. The first round, I thought was absolutely fine. I was quite happy with the first round, apart from the last 5 seconds when Nathan did a bolo punch, and we all just jumped up and said, "Behave, you know, discipline," because, you know, that's something that creeps into his game when he gets confident. And you know, sometimes it leads to him being a bit reckless. The second round, well, the second, third, and fourth were all quite similar. Nathan pressing. It did surprise me that Braehmer chose to stand so close to Nathan. Braehmer landed some good shots. Interesting afterwards, Nathan said his power wasn't all that. Obviously, he's fought Kovalev, and we know Kovalev, alongside Stevenson, is obviously by far and away the biggest puncher in the division. But I'd expect Braehmer to be, you know, close to the top. But he said Funfara hit quite a bit harder than Braehmer. And when you look at Braehmer's record, there's 35 stoppages on there. But it does tie into when I've spoken to Enzo, Macronelli, and Gary Lockett about Braehmer's power. They didn't rate it massively either. So, maybe it's just one of those records where he stops the people he's supposed to stop. And, the people he doesn't, or the people who've got something about them, they've managed to last. But yeah, the second, third, and fourth, I thought Nath stayed a bit too close for a bit too long. But it was one of those where he was losing the rounds but winning the fight. I thought Nath, even though Braehmer was landing more, I thought Nathan was taking what Braehmer had better than when Nath would just reply with a couple of arm punches. They just seemed to be bothering Braehmer a bit more. I don't know if anyone else read the fight like that. And then we got to the fifth round. The fifth round was the first one I enjoyed after the first. I thought Nathan was got back into that round. I thought he won that round. And then the sixth round, he definitely won it. By that stage, Braehmer's legs had gone. It was a massive ring. I've got to say, one of the biggest rings I've seen. And not just because I was ringside. It did look like a really big ring. And I expected Braehmer to utilize the ring and not get on his bike, but get around the edges of the ring and try to outbox Nathan early on. The first time he tried to do that was in the sixth round, and by that point he didn't have the legs to do it. They were throughout those second, third, and fourth rounds. I thought Nathan landed a couple of body shots, and Braehmer's body just reacted to them a bit more. He hasn't got the greatest poker face in the world, and it reacted, enough for Nathan to take heart from. And I think maybe that's what took Braehmer's legs away. But if you look at Braehmer's record, seriously now, since 2008, his last loss to Gary, there's not a lot on there. And Nathan, I knew going into the fight, Nathan's by far and away the livest challenger he's faced. And I'd probably say Braehmer, I don't know if I'm, maybe just because I'm Welsh, but what would you say Braehmer's best win? It's probably Enzo or Krasniqi, and it's not that's not a stupidly high level of opposition, is it?
We said last week, didn't we, that this was Braehmer's best opponent in several years, like at least 5 years, probably longer.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. It probably doesn't help between the age of 30 and 37 fighting, really C level about. They weren't even B level, were they? They were complete like non-entities. The fact that we're struggling to name his best win really shows you that he hasn't really fought anyone, and I agree. Maybe he wasn't prepared for what Cleverly could take and what he could give back. Because I thought we were all watching it in the chat, and I think I scored it the same as you do. I had Braehmer 4-2 up when it was stopped. Could have seen 3-3 easily. I think I gave Braehmer the fifth just, and then obviously the sixth in the first round I gave to Cleverly. And I thought, I was surprised seeing the photos afterwards that Cleverly wasn't marked up at all, was he?
No. You know what? There's not been many fights where he's not been marked up. Even easy fights, like the Krasniqi fight. I think I give Krasniqi 1 round against Nathan out of 12. But such is Nathan's style, because he does engage so often and so consistently throughout a round, inevitably he'll take punches. I can remember after Krasniqi, he still had a swollen ear afterwards from a right hand. So there's not loads of fights where Nathan has come out without a mark, but there was 18 minutes of consistent fighting there, and it did surprise me he didn't have a mark on him. But maybe that plays into Braehmer not having the power that his record suggests.
I think he was, because he landed clean a few times, and we were all sort of watching it at home, wincing and thinking, God, Cleverly doesn't want to be taking too many of these clean shots. But yeah, like you said, no mark at all. So I guess he was comfortable with the power, wasn't he? Like you said.
Yeah, and I think it is quite disappointing, though, that this is Braehmer's first real live fight in years, 8 years. And I'll be careful what I say, because obviously there's been severely tragic events in the last week. But you do want to see him. I know boxing's not easy, but you do want to see him give a bit more. And I do feel like 5 years ago, he robbed Nathan's moment of challenging for a title and, potentially hearing that word, the words and the new. But this time, obviously Nathan heard the words, and, we'll get into the belt, I'm sure, later. But Nathan heard those words and the new. But there was a tiny bit taken off with the manner of the stoppage, because Braehmer had one bad round, in my opinion, and he called it quits. And I do think his elbow was injured, or he felt it. Maybe it's just aches and pains of being 37 years old, 38 years old. on Wednesday. But
I thought he was fucked, and I think he realised he was going to get probably just get blown over because he was breathing heavily. Like, I've not noticed it in any of the other rounds, and for some reason the camera stayed on him after the sixth, and he was sat there, and he looked like me if I get up and walk to the fridge. He was absolutely fucked. Like he was like upright and like really trying to get the air into his lungs. It didn't look like he could, and then the next minute it's off, and then I've hurt my elbow. I'm like, I'm suspicious of everything, but he might have hurt his elbow. But I think that he realised he had no chance. Really,
guys. Yeah, just quickly. Before we go into too much about the elbow, everyone who saw the fight, if you have the chance to watch it again, there's a little clip that Dewey pointed out, when he came back to the country and watched it on TV for the first time, where Braehmer sort of rotates his elbow several times and sort of looks as if you do if you've got like a slightly sore ankle, you might rotate your foot and sort of wince a little bit, and he basically does that at the end of the fight. So, I had all sorts of people jumping on my timeline because I said it was a dislocated elbow, reporting what I'd heard on telly. And I had 5 or 6 people jump up and, say, if you dislocate your elbow, there's no way you're holding it and rubbing it like Braehmer was. Like, so they disputed it straight away.
Callus Ireland said he's like sprained a tendon or something.
Yeah, but that's for fuck's sake.
How do they know that though so soon? Because
they don't.
They've got like medical people though, aren't they? So I suppose they can have a quick look at it and have a guess, but they're not going to know until you get an MRI on it properly.
It was a nice setup, but I'm very sure they didn't have anything to do an MRI scan at the arena.
No, that's what I'm saying. But like, I kind of like Frot's got a bit of shit saying I'd fight on, but he would. Most of them would.
Yeah, this is where it goes well, Carp. Do you know, like early this week, Isaac Chamberlain dislocated his shoulder, and he wanted it that much.
In himself.
Yeah, he wanted it that much. He stayed in for the next 6 rounds.
That comes to like hunger though. At 37 years of old, he hasn't really beaten anyone, has he? But he's been around a while. He's won a lot of fights.
Yeah, I mean,
he must have just got in there and was getting beaten. Thought, "Fuck this, I can't be arsed anymore."
Yeah,
with regards,
I think hunger's more important than skill in this sport. I think if you don't want it and you're getting punched in the face.
Isaac Chamberlain, aged 37, with a few losses on his record, would not have popped his shoulder back in and carried on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with that. But anyway, yeah, Dewey, I think Eddie Hearn, someone said that they'd spoken to the Sauerlands, and this will come to me as I'm talking, I'm sure. I can't remember exactly who it was. I think it was Hearn, and he said he spoke to the Sauerlands, and they said like, oh, it was they said it wasn't a dislocation, but he damaged it in some way. But they apparently admitted that if it had happened in round 11 or 12, he probably would have carried on. But it was the fact that it happened, at the end of the 5th round or the beginning of the 6th round or whenever it was, and he had so long to go.
You know what it reminded me of? And I don't know if anyone's ever seen this. So when Devin Alexander fought Lee Purdy, Alexander kept whinging about little things, and then he went back to his corner and he was about to quit. They were going to pull him out because he said he broke his hand. But then Barker jumped in and fucking pulled Purdy out about 30 seconds just before. And like he had the sort of same body language where he just looked like he couldn't be arsed anymore.
Yeah.
I just think with Braehmer, do you know, like the injury? I've seen a couple of people. I'm not trying to be hypersensitive to it because obviously I'm close to Nathan, but I've seen a couple of people say Nathan's won because of an injury. But nobody said to Nathan last time, "Oh, you lost because of an injury." Braehmer got injured as a result of having a fight. He didn't, trip over his shoelace and.
Joey, this seems to be a constant theme at the minute, though. If you lose, it's just because you were injured, not because you got beat by someone better. Like Crawler lost because he got hit in the head.
Yeah, he got hit too hard.
Liam Smith lost because of a cut that he sustained in sparring. Brooke lost because he got his eye socket broke. People just don't seem to lose anymore because they've been beaten by someone better. There needs to be a story behind it.
Yeah, it's selectively used though for like those boxers who are sort of, popular. And let's be honest, Nathan hasn't been popular for a little while now because of the Kovalev fight and because of the farce against Bellew on pay-per-view. And I do feel like he's sort of being criticised for something that's not his fault. Like Nathan was injured a lot worse against Funfara and carried on. It's a 12-round fight, and if you get injured in that fight and you don't complete the 12 rounds, it's nobody's fault. But if you quit, that's all on you. Nobody said when he lost to Fonfara, oh, he lost because of an injury. But then now it's he wins because of an injury. It's a fight. It's not nice, but it happens, doesn't it?
But it's like the thing with Cleverly is you've never seen him like he's never sat there. Well, he's never there fucking demanding title shots or fucking fighting some idiot who's fucking not beat anyone with 2 arms and 2 legs, and then saying that he deserves a fight against the best in the division, and they've got a troll to fight him, and he's all singing, all dancing, best fighter we've ever seen, even though he's a fat scouse idiot. Like he ain't got that chip on his shoulder, if you know what I mean. He takes what he's given and he gets on with it. I don't see like.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nathan's been a victim sometimes, though, of not having that chip on his shoulder, and he doesn't argue his case. Like he'll just sort of get on with it. Where a lot of boxers will want to state their point and then repeat it, for 6 months to establish a narrative.
What's Nathan's hunger like for the sport? Does he actually care now? Because at certain points he's been quite not vocal, but he's been outspoken of saying that for a few years he couldn't be bothered with it. The
Kovalev fight knocked the stuffing out of him. Well, more than the stuffing, but the Kovalev fight was what it was. And I can remember going to see him the Monday after the fight, and he was 50-50 whether to continue or not. But after, I think if you look at his last 2 fights, they've been gut checks, both of them. In the Fonfara fight with injuries and the Braehmer fight with going to Germany and knowing you're up against it. And if you look at any independent rankings before Saturday night, and Braehmer was in the top 5. So, if he wasn't hungry, he wouldn't be there. It does annoy me that this sort of question of his hunger has continued. I thought after the Fonfara fight, it died down. But you see so many fighters, until Saturday, nobody questioned Braehmer's hunger, even though he's been fighting bums for the last 8 years. Or nobody, even you look at someone like Frankie Gavin, who's clearly fighting a weight division higher than he should be.
Gavin is hungry, but in a different sense.
Yeah,
nobody questions his hunger, though. And you even get John Ryder the other day, who fought in the second half of the fight, in the boxing ring was the last place he wanted to be. But I think it's just fashionable to highlight Nathan's hunger. But like I say, looking at his last 2 fights, if that doesn't convince anyone he's hungry, then they need to stop listening to Tony Bellew. And
I probably bought into it a bit. Obviously the rest of us don't know him personally, but I bought into it a little bit as well and thought post Bellew rematch. And to be honest, I never felt he was anywhere near as up for the Bellew fight, the rematch, as Bellew was. I thought it meant everything to Bellew, and Nathan probably thought, well, yeah, I mean, I'll take the fight. I've beat him once. Why not? Get well paid. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't feel it was as important to him as it was to Bellew. And then since then, I felt like he's kind of sort of mentally at the back end of his career, if that makes sense. I mean, physically, he's still in shape. He still makes the weight, etc., etc., and he still fights, with all his heart. But I felt like mentally he was coasting. And again, maybe that's just my misconception, because the last 2 fights, obviously, he has shown tremendous will to win. And I thought in the interview after the fight, he sounded really, really excited. He was like, "Look, I want to fight the best. I want to sort of prove myself again. All the rest of it." And it sounded sincere. It didn't sound like the fake sort of I want to fight with Andre Ward on HBO and cash myself out. It sounded like he genuinely wanted to sort of get back in the mix.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully that's what we see now. It's no secret. I think they talked about it in the post-fight interviews that there is a rematch clause. Braehmer's got 2 months from Saturday night to confirm whether he does or doesn't want the rematch. If he doesn't, the Sauerlands will still have an option, so Nathan will end up fighting a Sauerland fighter again if they meet the minimum pay requirements that are specified in the contract. So I'd say give him his next fight, whether it's a Braehmer rematch or whether it's another Sauerland light heavyweight. They could have Skoglund. There's Skoglund. There's that Coiling who's on the undercard, who's absolute dump.
He's shy. Cleverly would beat him, wouldn't he? I think.
Yeah, look,
he wouldn't have to go to Germany for those, would he?
It's up for the rematch with Braehmer. There's no way Braehmer's coming to Wales or the UK or outside of Germany. He's only fought once outside Germany. That was Hungary. So I'm 100% sure the Sauerlands would want that rematch in Germany. If it's Skoglund or Coiling or whoever else, I think it's 50-50. If it can make money here and the Sauerland, it doesn't have to be in Germany if it's another fighter, but it has to be a Sauerland show. So they'd have to co-promote with Matchroom if it was here.
Dewey, I've got one. I've actually been wanting to ask you this for weeks. I didn't have a good enough reason. After the Kovalev fight, I can remember. I think it was early. Kovalev was late 2013, wasn't it?
August.
Yeah, and I think this was in like February 2014 or something like that. And Cleverly came back and they announced that he might be fighting Makabu.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And that was rumored. And everyone said, fucking hell, like they're cashing him out. Makabu's this huge puncher from the weight above. And then that got completely scrapped. And then I think he moved to Matchroom after that, didn't he, or something? But what was going on there? Because I thought the Makabu fight was just complete suicide, I thought, at that stage.
Yeah, it was offered and accepted. And then I got to be careful what I say about this. Then it was made clear that if he accepted that fight, he would have to stay with a certain promoter for a number of fights because it was meant to be a WBA interim world title, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it was.
And that was enough to put Nathan off.
Okay, because
in terms of the actual fight, he was happy to take it. But
coming off a Kovalev knockout loss, fucking
I know.
Brutal run of fights. Good thing. But yeah, no, sorry, that was all. I just was always wondering about why, sort of where that came from and whether it was bullshit or not.
Yeah, that's why I knew of Makabu for a little, from that point onwards, really. And to be honest, I know everyone was high on Makabu before the Bellew fight, but I said in this podcast on the night that Khan fought Canelo, I expected Bellew to be too big for him. And it was just after watching him a couple of his fights around that time, 2013 or early 2014. Just something about him that didn't really convince me. And in hindsight, we know that Nathan would have been far too small to beat any world-class cruiserweight, really. But Nathan saw it as it was a risk worth taking should there be a WBA interim title on the line. But obviously, when there was a couple of contractual things that would have meant a lot of time with a certain promoter, he decided against it.
Fair enough. No one wants to stay with fish eyes for too long, do they?
But on the Solon thing, Dave, do you not think if this proposed super fight rematch for Murray and Abraham falls through, if Braehmer decides to fuck it off, they might just try and make Abraham against Clev?
Abraham would be tiny.
You know what, right? You might not believe me, but this was actually put to Nathan. I think it was the first half of 2013. If he wanted to fight super middleweight, and he expressed his interest that he would do super middle for that, and it didn't end up coming off. It was literally nothing more than informal talks.
Yeah.
But I'd be surprised if Abraham came to.
Chewy, what was the whole thing with Froch and Cleverly? Wasn't that a rumoured fight at one point?
Well,
with Frank was getting his contracts out.
Yeah, get the emails out.
Yeah,
that was offered by Frank after Froch lost to Andre Ward. And Nathan said he'd go to super middle. Frank talked him up to 172, but I think he actually made the offer to Matchroom £174, which for Froch, is practically light heavyweight, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that Froch was never going to work with
Warren
at that time, and they got him the Butte fight shortly after, which worked out well for them.
Interesting.
I mean, Nathan's not had that bad a career anyway, really, is he? But if you think of all the fights he could have had that he's been offered, like the Ward fight, he signed for that twice, didn't he?
I was looking at his record. Yeah, he signed for Ward twice this year. I was looking at his record the other day, and it was like a solid trio of wins. And don't get me wrong, they spread over 6 bloody years, so it's taken a long time. But he's got beat Murat, who at the time was like an upcoming unbeaten top contender. Beat Bellew, who was inexperienced but an extremely hungry challenger. And now he's beaten Braehmer, who is definitely the best win of his career. Braehmer was but he was a long reigning champion. So as a trio of wins, it's quite it's decent.
And he's still only 29 as well, isn't he?
But I think you've missed the best win off there. I think the big fight against Sean Hawke. That's probably
that goes without saying, of course.
That's probably the best win by any Brit on foreign soil.
You do. A lot of people we're not confused, but you forget how young Cleverly is. You expect him to be much older than 29 because he seems like he's been around forever.
Yeah, well, he turned pro in 2005, and he was 18 years old, which is obviously very young. He's world champion by the time he was 24. And you know, at the time, I don't think I appreciated how young that was, because if you obviously every unbeaten world champion intends on staying unbeaten forever. But if you want to stay unbeaten forever, Nathan could, at 24, he could be boxing for another 10 years. That's another 30 fights. At some point, you're going to have to fight the top guys consistently, or fairly consistently. You're not going to win them all unless you're extra special. And I think Nathan is world level, but he's probably not. He's not Kovalev or Ward, is he?
But equally, I think Cleverly was headlining cards within two or 3 years of turning pro, wasn't he? So he was sort of pushed to the top of, because I can remember Warren really hyping him up, way before. Well, not way before, sort of maybe a year before he won his world title. So he got a push pretty early, and I think he's been in the spotlight for 8 or 9 years, I suppose.
Yeah,
which is a hell of a long time.
When you look at his contemporaries, like John, I'm just thinking of the big names in boxing when he was coming through. It is like John Murray, Kevin Mitchell, and you forget that they're all retired now. So while he's only 29, his sort of generation of fighters are on the way out. And I'd say Nathan's 29 now. I'd like to see him box for, if he had another 3 years, and he could fit in 9 fights there in the next 3 or 4 years against good guys. I wouldn't mind seeing him retire at 32, which is fairly young, but it's not when you think his career then would be 13 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Dewey, just quickly, because I know it wasn't great. What were your thoughts on the undercard? I only saw the Man versus Drago fight, which was never seen.
Who did Arthur Man look like to you?
Cleverly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I thought he was his twin brother or something. It was Cleverly against Kamitsky, I think, that fight. Paul Drago and Arthur Man. But that was a good fight, actually. That fight I quite enjoyed. I think it was 8 rounds. I scored it 5-3 to Arthur Man. Even though he's got a decent win on points against Brudov, I don't think he's going to go far, but I think he'll be in fun fights. Looks like he can crack a little bit because he hurt Drago, and Drago is a serious lump. Elsewhere on the undercard, bear in mind, I wasn't reporting. I was just there as a fan, so I'd had a couple of beers. I've never been so bored than watching that fight between Leidenberg and Coiling, and I thought it was actually quite even. But I was because I was sat right next to the away corner. I was really impressed by Leidenberg's corner. They were constantly on his case, never letting him rest, and I thought he might have pipped it. But then seeing the punch stats afterwards, I think he
threw 3 times as many or something mental. Let me get him up now.
He'd landed 2.5 times the punches that Coiling had as well. That fight, though, they both look like the smallest light heavyweights I've ever seen in my entire life. They could have been next to an average-sized middleweight like Billy Joe Saunders and look smaller than him.
Here we go. Punch stats. I'll give you for both the fights because they're both up now. Liebenberg, Coiling. This is mental if you're looking at this. Liebenberg landed 231. Curling landed 102. Right?
Yeah.
That's not the fucking best bit. So that's how many he landed. Liebenberg threw 1,016 punches. Curling threw 319.
Wow.
So Curling was accurate then. He's landing at
about 1 in 3, but he still landed less than half as many and thrown a third as many punches. I don't understand how you can make a case for that, but
I've got a great anecdote for you, by the way, lads. In the O'Hara Davis fight, the name of his opponent escapes me, but the guy was mental. I don't know if you've seen the fight, but he was getting hurt quite often, and then just showboating. And at one point he defended a body shot with his knee. Oh, it was hilarious. But
I heard a description that said he genuinely looked like he'd never had a fight before.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, but I assume that was because that was someone over exaggerating or whatever. But it actually sounds like, I haven't watched it, but it sounds like that was genuinely an accurate description.
Please watch it, because I was sat next to Nathan's brother, Vince, and he said there was like a part. I think it was towards the end of the first round. He's looking at this bloke, and he said, "I know, I've seen that bloke before. I can't think where." And then he remembered where he was picturing him from. He was picturing him from the bar the night before. And the guy got absolutely sloshed after the weigh-in.
What a man! But yeah,
and then he fought like he was pissed as well. So maybe he'd been on the sauce on the Saturday as well.
Yeah, that guy who Davies fought, the Lion Garrido iced him in his fight before that. So
I think us guys could ice him, because I think he loves a beer.
Speak for yourself. I'm an accomplished amateur boxer now.
Okay.
Chakib Fadli, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine you'll be seeing him on a few Matchroom shows in the coming months. He'll probably fight.
That's always a standard.
He'll fight Doyle, won't he? He'll fight Luke Campbell in a final eliminator soon, something like that. Right. So if we get away from the card in Germany, I've got before we get on to Joseph Parker, because that's a bit of a Pandora's box this week, because Ainsley's going all fanboyish about Joshua, but we won't go on to Parker tonight. Dewey, we've had a question in the chat, and it relates to what you were saying earlier, which I think would be quite interesting for the listeners. This guy has said in the chat, no offence to Boxing Wales, but I have to agree with Hearn. Where is Selby's career going? Apparently, the Barros mandatory has been confirmed, and you had some. I don't know if you can repeat what you were saying earlier, but you had some interesting sort of view on Selby.
I don't. Yeah, basically confirmation of what my suspicion was. I had a chat with Eddie. I think it was before the fight. The night is all like blurred into one. It was a crazy weekend, but I had a chat with Eddie before the fight, and there's practically I shouldn't say practically. There's literally no relationship now between Selby and Hearn. And once this mandatory is ordered and happens, their contract is up, and I'd be amazed if it was renewed. It's quite sad. I think they signed for Heyman at the wrong time. They shouldn't have signed with him, in my opinion. And now he's out in Japan. I think what they wanted was for the Japanese fighter to beat Jonathan Victor Barros, so that there'd actually be a promoter to put the show on. I don't think Barros has got a promoter, so now you're left with a mandatory who's got no money. And they'll probably end up going to purse bids, because Heyman's people struggled to make the Hunter fight, even though Hunter was in a similar situation to Barros with no real promoter backing, and he's gonna, Heyman is gonna end up bidding for the fight at the last minute, and probably on the cheap as well.
Yeah, I mean, he really did sign at the wrong time, didn't he? That was right around the time when the fight started to slow up and slow down and dry up a bit. The other one I'm thinking of is De Gale. Obviously, he probably signed at the wrong time as well. But he
kind of worked out for De Gale, isn't it?
Because he's at a high, no offense, but he's at a higher level than Selby and in a more sort of glamorous division.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was all. I think yeah, it sounds like Hearn sort of was genuinely betrayed by Selby and shocked that he left him. Because, like you said, we talk, don't we? But he had brought Selby up from being almost a nobody.
Yeah, pre-Gradovic, I talked to Eddie, and I asked him, I said, bearing in mind you took Darren Barker to a world title who never looked near fighting for a world title, let alone winning one, and he even managed to get Brian Rose a world title fight. I said, where does Selby rank? Because when you took him, he couldn't sell a ticket, quite literally sold a handful of tickets, and he was fighting in front of not very many people for not a great deal of money, and ended up getting a world champion to come to the UK. I know, don't get me wrong, granted not a great world champion, but a belt holder nonetheless. And Eddie said it's probably one of his best promotional jobs, because he'd made Selby quite relevant at that stage in, what was that, 2015? Yeah, last May, wasn't it, on the big show, TO2. Yeah. So I think Eddie wanted to continue that. I know he had almost booked an arena for the first defence back in Cardiff, and then he told from the horse's mouth, he suspected that Heyman was sniffing around, and he asked Selby's people outright, and they confirmed it. And since then, Eddie's had no reason to invest in Lee because he knows that Lee doesn't want to be with him. He wants to be in America without him. I think what sticks with Hearn is that they didn't try to take him with them to America, even though he'd got Selby the right fights to get up there. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of promoters take away from the fighters, but I think Hearn had given Selby more than he'd taken away.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we slag Hearn as much as anyone, but I do think in that case he had done a really good job. And Selby he had a lot of momentum, didn't he? Sort of going back what, a year or 15 months or so, and he's really stalled. And he's had those awful fights in the Hunter, who was just awkward and he didn't look good at all, and then Montiel on steroids, who was just bouncing around the ring like a fucking maniac. In an arena with 50 Mexicans who didn't know who either of them were.
You say this, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. And looking back now, he probably made the wrong choice. But if the PBC took off as we all hoped it would, and perhaps Selby was fighting regular and better guys, then he'd have made the right choice.
Yeah, but hindsight is a wonderful thing, but foresight is a more valuable thing. If you look at Heyman's money, it was never sustainable. There was never any return on their investment. I'm not just saying it because, with the benefit of hindsight. I said it at the time. Once that 400 million goes, he will never get another 400 million from his investors. Heyman set up the PBC, and I don't know why anyone didn't clock onto it at the start. Out of that 400 million, whatever they pay the fighters, he gets 15%. So say they spend a quarter of that say they spend half of that on their fighters, he's going to get a quarter of.
Yeah. But I don't understand what Selby thought, because he's not really going to appeal to an American market.
What they thought, Ainsley, was that they'd get the winner or loser of Mares against Santa Cruz. Then when that didn't happen, what they thought was that they'd get the winner or loser of Frampton Santa Cruz. So there's two big fights there, and there's three people involved, and he's not been able to fight one of them.
Why can't he fight? Why doesn't he fight someone like Cuellar or something? That would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
Be a really good win for both guys. Probably a career best win for either guy.
Who's going to pay for it though? Because Heyman's got no money left. Showtime are not going to pay for it, and all the other broadcasters are time buys.
It's a shame because there's some really good fights at that weight. But like you say, you've got Gary Russell, Valdez, Lomachenko, Selby, and for whatever reason, they're very unlikely to fight each other at the moment. It is a real shame.
Yeah.
But no, I think Carpi in this case, hindsight is quite valuable because maybe if Selby had signed with Heyman a year before, he would have got a couple more fights and made a lot more money, and we'd all be saying, actually, it was a pretty good decision. But he signed with him right as the momentum stopped.
How much did he get paid for Hunter? Wasn't it 30 grand or something?
No, it was a lot more than that.
For Hunter, the purse bid was $350,000. Hold on. And Selby was entitled to 85% of that because Hunter was not in the top two. He wasn't ranked first or second. But what I will say is that when a promoter bids that much over, and like Gary Shaw's purse bid, which was the only other purse bid, was like $30,000. After that, the promoters, he doesn't have to pay his guy that if they come to an agreement. He might just bid $300,000 to win the purse bid. They'll have to give Hunter 15% of that, but he might come to an agreement with his own fighter, to take slightly less.
Yeah, and haggle it down as a total.
I'd be surprised if Selby got 85% of $350,000 for Hunter.
I'd be fucking surprised if Hunter got over 30 grand. To be perfectly honest, he was really a nobody, and like you say, hadn't really earned the fight. But it's a shame because I think a lot of people like Selby and feel like he's got a pretty high ceiling, and it just seems that he's just made some bad decisions or been badly advised by those cunts from Bristol, right?
Fuck off.
Like every other Bristolian fighter, they've been abused by the Sanagar.
Chris Sanagar is a saint.
Were the Sanagars involved with Glenn Catley at all?
They were. Sanagar trained him, Chris.
Yeah, and look what happened to Catley.
I won't have this. I won't stand for this shit. At least he's not a nonce like Brendan Ingle.
That's true. Moving on.
Back to the old days now, isn't it?
Yeah. No.
Yeah, Carp is fucked next time he turns up in Manchester.
Why? Brendan Ingle going to be sharing a room with me or something?
Yeah, we're good
Fuck's
friends.
sake.
You probably like that though. Carpy's
No.
Carpy's playing hard to get. This is classic Carpy. Right. Moving on. Let's go. Let's shift on to. Have we got? I mean, unless anyone wants to talk about me and Dewey losing money betting on Wadi Camacho on Thursday night.
No one really cares about that. It wasn't televised, was it?
Shep, can I just sign out on 2 quick points because I've got to go. I'll hopefully come to the second point, but I've only just remembered the first. Tell him I feel punchy after this weekend. What I will say, Nathan's obviously got the WBA regular title now. I won't claim that that's a legitimate world title. It's obviously not. What I will claim is that Braehmer was ranked in the top 5, and the WBA regular is obviously the 5th most recognised belt, the last recognised belt, which I think accurately represents where he can claim to be now in the back end of the top 5. I know when I did manage this signal on the weekend, on Saturday night, I was struggling to read by the point that I got to Twitter. There were loads of people who felt like they couldn't praise Nathan for the win without mentioning that the belt was bollocks. We obviously know it is, but it did annoy me that when Jamie McDonnell beat Kameda, nobody said, great win, but your belt is bollocks. When Danny Jacobs beat Peter Quillin, nobody said, great win, but your belt is bollocks. They just said, great win, because it was.
I was raging when Jacobs beat him, and I was saying that the belt was bollocks. That's just because I hate Jacobs, though. But no, I know what you mean. People do need to be consistent.
I don't think there's need to put a disclaimer on the win. The belt is representative of where he can claim to be. He's not claiming to be better than Kovalev, Stevenson, or Ward. He's just saying, I've beaten the guy who's in the top 5.
So on that logic, so you've got, let's say, Kovalev and Ward 1 and 2 in either order, however you want to do it. Stevenson's 3, isn't he? Beterbiev probably 4, and then Cleverly at 5. Is that probably how we're ranking it?
Fair enough.
I only do rankings on results. And I'd probably say Nathan's probably got the 4th best win. But Beterbiev is obviously the 4th best boxer. He's just yet to prove it in a fight yet.
Yeah, but he keeps fanning about as well, which is...
Heyman.
Well, he's fighting absolutely no one, isn't he? So we have to sort of ignore.
Well, what's the common denominator though with anyone signed with Heyman?
Yeah,
it's him. They sign with Heyman and they don't get any good fights.
But look at how Heyman sort of fucked that division though, light heavyweight, because we were about to get like an undisputed lineal champion, and then fucking
Kathy do fuck like that. That had nothing to do with Heyman.
But Heyman gave him the option of fucking it up, didn't he? He gave him the choice. HBO had said, "Look, we're only going to keep paying you $1 million to fight on our network if you promise to fight Kovalev, next time out." And they put them on the same bills. They did like what was the one?
They was on the same bill when Bellew did his disgraceful performance against Adonis Stevenson. Kovalev was on that undercard.
Yeah, he fought Stillax, didn't he? Yeah. And then they went from one to the other. It was like going back to the HBO pod from this week, the excellent one, if anyone hasn't heard it. They had Hopkins and Trinidad fighting on the same bills. Hopkins on the undercard, Trinidad on the main event or whatever to build up the anticipation. And it was, or they had them fighting on the same date. Sorry, I don't think it was the same show. But you just don't see that kind of long-term planning with Heyman at all. It's everything's like a cash grab, one after the other, and like Dewey said, it's starting to fall apart. Did you have your second point, mate? Just if you want to hop off.
No, mate, I've absolutely no idea what I was going to talk about. So it's probably a good point for me to sign out now because I feel a bit fucked.
All right. Well, hope you recover. I hope you recover, and congratulations to Cleverly again. Just quickly, who would you see him? Let's say for whatever reason, let's say Braehmer retires. Is he obligated to the Sauerlands for his next fight?
He's just said
he will be.
No, sorry, I didn't know you said that he was obligated to any of their fighters. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, they've got an option. It's interesting though. Eddie told me in the change room after the fight, Heyman had been in. I'd text him straight away saying Funfara in the UK, which is clearly a sign that he's got no fucking money left to do it in America, because Funfara is one of those few fighters in America who actually shifts a ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Funfara sells like 10,000 out, doesn't he, every time? Yeah.
It's got the Polish lot though in Chicago. They generally do quite well. He's fucked up. He's fucked up with Funfara now.
you've got a decent Polish population in London. That could actually, or I don't know about Wales, but that could actually draw a bit of interest over here.
Decent Polish population in Cardiff, but don't get me wrong. Funfara can fuck off because they had the option of a rematch after October, and they went to Joe Smith Jr. to use theirs cheap and ended up getting knocked out in a round. So I think, really, I don't, given the manner of how good a fight it was, I don't think there's a need for Nathan to avenge that defeat. Because it's not like he was blasted out of there.
It would be a really good fight if they did it again. It's pretty much guaranteed action, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you never know. Fonfara's chin might have been cracked now. He could be, cleverly stop him like he stopped Braehmer, the punching machine from the valleys. Okay, right. Well, we'll let you hop off, mate, if you're still knackered after your bender.
All right, lads. I'll see you in a bit.
Cheers, mate.
See you later.
Cheers, man.
Right. You too.
Yeah, can I just address something? I don't know if he's listening.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, go on.
Danny Robson is a fucking casual. I'm going to call him out. This hair shit is getting ridiculous now, and I'm just going to take a no bullshit with hair. Anyone tweeting any nonsense about hair is getting fucking blocked. Hair's not going to take 15% about Joshua. If you think that, pull your head from out your arse and kill yourself. We'll
talk about Joshua in a sec. Let's get on to Parker Dimitrenko quickly. The fight was pretty boring. It went exactly as we said it would, didn't it?
I think you pretty much called that. I think you said he'll get dropped, and then maybe 1 or 2 rounds later he'll decide he's had enough and find a way of getting out of it. And
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't just me. I mean, to be fair, we all said he'll give up at the first sign of trouble.
Yeah.
Carpi.
Yep.
Should Parker have been disqualified? Yes or no?
It'd be a pretty harsh disqualification. It's not like Dimitrenko was in the fight and then it was cruelly taken away from him.
And also, he didn't really clock him when he was on the ground, did he? It wasn't.
He did.
He fucking twat. He caught it for long.
The first punch was worse. That put him down in the first.
It was. But so
Dimitrenko was on the floor for about half a second after, and then Parker threw that body shot.
He knew what he was doing, because this is the thing with the shot. But he knew where he was stood that the referee couldn't see from that angle. So that's why he threw it. It was it was naughty that. And if he'd have got disqualified, he could not have had any complaints whatsoever. None.
No, but you can say that at the same time. AJ's done it a few times where people have been pretty much on their ass and he's chinned them.
It's a bit like football, isn't it? If with sort of holding shirts at corners, you'll end up with 10 penalties a game. I think you'd end up with a disqualification every single week if you start disqualifying guys for stuff like that.
Let's get it right. A home big prospect in their own country is never going to get DQ'd for something like that. They literally have to bite the opposition's nose off and they barely get disqualified. Femi could take his gloves off and stab people and probably would still not get disqualified.
You might get a warning, yeah, exactly. I think, and when they do get disqualified, like Roy Jones against Griffin, when he really did hit Griffin quite hard when he was on the floor, and he got disqualified, and everyone said it was stupid decision and all the rest of it, and then they had a rematch and it was just considered. They said, "Oh, you should have just taken a point."
No one wants to see disqualifications. It's a nasty business at the end of the day, and you'd have to. For a valid disqualification, you're going to need serious, low blowing constantly. I'd say is a disqualification. Hitting someone when they're down, maybe it depends how bad it is, but I don't think Parker's one, for example, should be.
I think if it's like Abraham against Durrell, then maybe you think, okay, genuinely the guy can't continue. That's that he's knocked him out with an illegal blow. That is a disqualification. But I agree. I think with the other stuff, just take a point and warn them. And do if anyone hasn't seen it, watch Brandon Rios against Anthony Peterson. When he hits him low, gets a warning, hits him low again, gets a final warning, hits him low again, 1 point, again, 2 points, again, disqualified. Perfect. He did it 5 times, got disqualified. There was absolutely no way anyone could have argued. I'm watching this O'Hara Davis fight out of the corner of my eye. The guy is literally putting his knee up to block body shots. It's amazing. This is absolutely brilliant. Everyone, I recommend you watch it. It's it looks almost like a video game or something. But yeah, so Andy, you think he should have been disqualified?
Well, no, I don't think he should have been. But what I'm saying is, if he was disqualified, he couldn't have really argued it. I wouldn't. If I was a ref and I saw it, I wouldn't have. I'd have probably said, "Fucking watch what you're doing," because Dimitrenko going to quit either way, but like he should have fucking really had a bit of a talking to after, because that was very naughty. Like, because that is what I'm saying. It wasn't just the fact that he'd done it. He's done it on the side where he knows the referee can't see because he's sort of blocking his view.
Yeah, but I mean, some people would say that's clever, right?
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, it is. But I mean. Yeah, not Hopkins, little dirty cunt. But yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask because I'm just sick of Parker this weekend.
Right, anyway, so let's get on to broader Parker chat, because we don't know what's happening yet, but it seems like he might be going for the WBO belt.
Well, him and his promoters have said that that's pretty much happening.
95% done, they said.
Well, assuming Fury gets stripped in the sort of next week or so, which I assume he will.
Oh, actually, it turns out it's true about Big Oval. He has had to retire because he's got a bad heart.
That's a shame.
That reminds me, we'll be having a special guest on a bit later. I won't reveal the name, but very special guest in about half an hour's time or so. So stay tuned for that. So Parker's going for the WBO. Joshua and Klitschko, I don't believe a word of what Hearn's saying about those offers. I think he'd only take that fight if Klitschko bent over backwards to make it.
Yeah. But basically, the rankings now. So Pulev's number 2 and Hayes number 3. And apparently Pulev don't want it, so this is where people say, "No, Hayes going to take it." Then Hayes not going to take 15%.
I haven't heard Hearn mention Hay once.
Yeah, well, it's irrelevant. Hayes not going to take 15%. He's come back into boxing for a massive cash out. He ain't going to take short money and get fuck Hay anyway. But he's irrelevant.
Again, they'd never in a million years do that fight in November. Never in a million years. They do Wembley in May or something.
But like still, like Hay loses all power in that situation. He's got no clout, so like Sky hate him, and if he's only entitled to 15%,
but that's still probably £1 million, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but I mean,
he's not back for £1 million.
No,
I personally think, and I know I'm not a Hay fan either. I probably would. If they made that fight, I reckon I would be cheering for Joshua to chin him. To be fair.
Fuck that.
No, honestly, would copy. I don't like Hay at all. I think he's complete.
Neither do I. But it's a lesser of two evils sometimes, isn't it?
I don't think it is. I think
he's the bigger evil than Joshua.
Yeah. Because
I know it's annoying that Hearn makes money and is successful, but I wouldn't. Can you imagine Hay back as a champion? Like how he'd behave, and the standard of opponents and all the rest of it. But yeah, let's say I think Hay will be very confident taking that fight.
I think,
and maybe, but I think he'd take it, and if he takes it and wins, then the 15% goes out the window, and suddenly he can demand 10 million, 15 million. I don't know. He can demand crazy money, can't he?
There's plenty of rumours fucking flying around about Hay at the minute. So if even one of these rumours is true, he's not taking anything.
I don't think he's going to retire again, if that's what you're saying.
Well, there was other stuff getting said the other week.
Like what?
Well, his money issues are everything that's been said and more. So I think he'll still try and milk it with his little bumper head, getting £1 million a fight for a bit instead of.
Do you know the fight I actually really want to see? And it's going to sound stupid because it's two people I hate, but I'd love to see Price versus Shannon Briggs. Genuinely.
No, honestly, I can see that.
Yeah, but Hearn has mentioned that fight several times. He said, Hay apparently doesn't want to fight Briggs now. Good, because that's a stupid fight. But I actually think for David Price and Briggs, that is a real loser leaves town fight, isn't it? That is seriously, if you lose that, you can just fuck
Briggs
off.
wouldn't take it because it doesn't pay enough, and David Price wouldn't take it because there's a big chance Shannon Briggs would ice him in a round.
But if there was some sort of deal which said that, I don't know, if Briggs, maybe the winner got Hay or something, then I mean, honestly, Briggs beating Price would validate Briggs in the eyes of a lot of the Hay casual fans.
No, I think if Briggs beat Price, that would be my favourite boxing result of all time. I would absolutely.
Right, we're not here to talk about Price and Briggs.
No,
Let's talk
we're
about
not.
what we're here for.
No, but it can't be, because heavyweight's a real mess at the moment.
Yeah.
We're not really sure where the pieces are going to fall. And I think that actually Price is a big part of that. You know, no one knows kind of, is he turning down fights against Dillian Whyte? Is he avoiding, you know, X, Y, and Z fighters? He seems to want to go straight into a world title shot. Of course, that's absurd.
Yeah.
I think even Hearn knows that he couldn't get away with just doing Price Joshua now. Like, Price need to win first. Briggs is such an easy sell to the casuals. So if Price beat Briggs, that would be, honestly, if they could show the knockout on replay and all this stuff, and they
but Briggs has got some fucking chin, even if he is old as fuck. So if he did ice Briggs, that's still like
what I mean. Price would lose. I just want Price to lose. And he'd lose to some 50-year-old idiot who shouldn't even be in the ring. It would be fucking amazing. Can you imagine if Price just got completely stretched out by Briggs?
I like Shannon Briggs. Against all my better judgment, I like Shannon Briggs.
I know what you mean. But you know I fucking hated myself for watching it. So I watched the thing when he was talking to Hearn, and like, you can see he's not actually a fucking idiot. He's very clever.
Of course he is. All the Let's Go champ. It's all an act, isn't it? And it's got him back in the public domain.
Character, yeah, completely. I agree with you. I think he's far less stupid than he makes out with his persona. Not saying he's a fucking Mensa or anything like what's his name, Nicky Piper, the genius. But, yeah. Anyway, people in the chat are saying straight away, Price and he said Price and White is a good fight. Yeah, I suppose it is, but
yeah, but you know,
probably feel that he's above Price at this stage.
There's some massive insecurities in Price and Caldwell about him still, because you won't have seen it because he's black, but basically fucking Matt Bowes fucking put something about Price saying how's he got the right to be demanding fights with Parker and Joshua, and Caldwell basically started whinging at him, and everything that Matt was saying was spot on. He was saying, well, how can you go from fighting shit to turning down Dave Allen because you want to fight these idiots, and then fighting someone who looks like he fell out the back of a fucking cab? Like, you can't do this and then start telling everyone else that you're new and improved when you've just been fighting the same shit that you've done before.
Yeah, exactly. You can't say you're new and improved and you've got over your deficiencies and you've corrected all your flaws when you're fighting a worse level of opponents than you were. And Price, and this isn't a guy. Price wasn't fighting some murderer's row before he got knocked out. His best win is Audley Harrison. Like,
exactly. Yeah, but I said, ignore the amateur careers now and just say from the day David Price turned pro to the day he finished, if you compare Audley Harrison and David Price's fucking pro careers, Audley's done more.
Harrison's had a much better career.
Yeah.
Much better.
So, and I still don't think that Price will ever match that, so it's going to be hilarious after all the shit that he was saying about this and that. And
you know what I think would make perfect sense would be something like White against Pulev, winner gets Joshua.
Yeah.
Because I think Pulev would beat White.
That's
quite wide.
Yeah, but listen,
you have Hearn talked about what Land of the Giants or something where you have 3 heavyweight fights. But he genuinely did, and I think it sounds. And we said this about a month ago, and I said I would go to that card if it was in London if they were well matched because it would be great fun. Because you've got 3 fights that will all probably end in a knockout.
Yeah.
And imagine if the show opens Briggs versus Price. Then you get White versus Pulev. Then you get, say, Joshua versus Parker. That is a really good card because the fights are all at different levels, but they're all pretty well matched. And I'm sure, we can make a case that Joshua would smash Parker, but equally, I think Parker's earned a shot. Do you know what I mean? Like I think his resume is good enough to have earned him a shot at Joshua, who's also
he has.
And I think that would be, and it's a shame because it sounded to me like Hearn genuinely wanted to make that sort of a card, and for whatever reason it hasn't happened. And I imagine it's a case of White's probably saying, I deserve a title shot. Price is saying, I deserve a title shot. None of them are willing to fight anyone else apart from the champion. And it's kind of a cat.
But that's the problem with the heavyweight division. They all sort of squat on a position once they get to it. Or they don't even get there. It's just like they get some arrogance. It's not even just the heavyweights. They get an arrogance and then think they don't have to do anything. Or I can just fucking fight idiots until this comes along.
Well, yeah, they get in the top 25 and then think, well, I've earned a title shot now. So why would I fight anyone else? And it's a shame because I think there are some really good fun. And we're not asking for the fans don't want every fight to be a title fight. Like Briggs versus Price, that's just a good fun. I think it doesn't mean anything. It's not it's not an amazing win for either guy. The loser could maybe rematch. You could probably do a rematch, couldn't you? Like that's just a fun fight.
But the thing is, both guys are trying to win. That's the fucking thing. And I know it's a shit thing to say, and that's the minimum we should expect. But we don't get that very often anymore. We don't get two guys in a fight where both guys generally think they can win anymore.
But both guys have the same amount to gain. I think. Yeah. And both have a lot to lose, and I think that's all you want, really. Where
cleverly Braehmer was like that. That was two guys who both thought they could win and both had something to win and lose at the same time. We don't get that very often at the minute because it's just a bit of a mess. But so like Price and I wouldn't mind Price and Briggs. I'd be fucking let's go camp.
Yeah, I think Price and Briggs would be good. I think a fight that fits that description recently was I thought Nurse versus Coyle when they announced that was we always thought that was going to be a decent fight. We always favoured Nurse to win, obviously, but I think both guys had a lot to gain from that fight. It would have been a really good win for both of them. So they both tried their heart out, and it was a pretty good fight. And then you had that followed by on the same card you then had Campbell against Mendes, and Campbell sort of got a lot to lose but not much to gain. Mendes doesn't give a shit either way, and you just get it was the complete polar opposite where another fight where neither guy was prepared to risk anything, and it's a shame. I always thought that Allen versus White was going to be that sort of fight where both guys had a lot to gain, but I guess it didn't really turn out that way
because Dave did fuck all for 30 minutes.
Yeah. And again, though, but that's fucking giving people 2 weeks' notice. But he said he's not going to fight Price on the 15th because they told him no 4 weeks ago. So why is he going to say now when he's got 2 weeks to train? And like he said, if he gets 2 weeks' notice, so basically he said he'd be able to train 4 days this week, but then next week he won't be able to train because of all the shit you've got to do. So basically he'd be taking a fight where he can train for 4 days.
Yeah,
when they told him 4 weeks ago.
You're literally talking about he'd spend 10 hours in the gym.
Yeah,
that's it for a fight. It's ridiculous. And that shows you the lack of confidence that they have in Price. And Caldwell, I like Caldwell a lot in many ways, but I can't stand the bullshit he's spewing about Price because if they're too scared to give Dave Allen 4 weeks notice, then they have absolutely no business demanding a title shot, talking about headlining a card or any of this nonsense. And he can fuck off as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but everybody around Price is treading on eggshells. I don't know what it is, but nobody is saying it as it is at all. There's nobody. And I mean, at least with White and others, you've got people saying, oh, well, White's a bit of a fucking idiot. It just, you know what I mean? But every single person's like, oh, well, Price is back, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's not. He's fighting fucking idiots and he's demanding shots that above his station. But
he's got really bad confidence issues, though, hasn't he? So they need to. They need to make Price himself feel like he is actually half decent.
There was a value of the week on the Asylum yesterday where the quote was, I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been, it was one of the Sky Sports team. It might have been Macklin or Barker. They said that David Price, no, it was Barker. He said, David Price is a very mentally strong fighter. But you just think that's like saying Amir Khan, is outstanding on the inside, and
has an iron chin.
Yeah. Honestly, that is as much bullshit as saying Amir Khan can take a shot as well as anyone in the sport. It's just nonsense. Price is one of the most mentally weak fighters I've ever seen, and that's not an insult to him. Look, some people are very strong-willed, some people aren't. That's not a knock on him, but being mentally weak and having a glass chin is a real problem. When you're a heavyweight, because we saw it against Tepper, didn't we? He absolutely shit himself about halfway through the first round and suddenly thought, "Fucking hell, if this guy hits me, I'm done." And he was pushing him away, wasn't he? He was sort of pulling the jab.
Yeah. But is that an excuse?
I've said before, people like David Price, they need to reincarnate Manny Stewart, and he might give him a chance.
But David Price on his IFL, he's had a pre-prepared excuse for his jab, saying, "Oh, I've had a fucking bad left elbow, so I've not been able to extend my arm properly." Maybe not, but still, the extension he did have on his arm, it was like he was fucking. He doesn't try to play with a cat. It's like he's not.
He doesn't throw the jab because he's scared about what's going to come back over the top of it. That's the reason.
Yeah.
And it's because he's so worried about what's coming back at all times. You saw it in the second Thompson fight. Obviously,
when he dropped him.
But he dropped him in the second round or something, didn't he? But as soon as Thompson got back up and started coming forward,
shot himself.
He stopped actually hitting with the jab and forcefully putting it out, and he started just sort of pouring with it to try and push Thompson away. And Thompson obviously was a veteran. He slipped inside it very, very easily, and he started working Price's body, and he had him exhausted within a couple of rounds. And and you could see Price's face, like his expression changed. He stopped throwing the jab with any intention to hurt Thompson, and you could see it with him. Like he started to he was thinking way too much about what was coming back, and you see fighters doing that, but it's usually only against guys who hit really fucking hard or can time you really, really well. Like maybe you get a bit gun shy, but Price does it with. I mean, he did it on that fucking Liverpool card when Bellew won the title. He was backpedaling against that fucking bouncer. Like genuinely looking really worried about what was coming back.
Right.
Luckily, the guy was fighting gassed in 2 rounds, and then Price could take him out. I think that's their plan. They only want to fight guys who haven't had a full camp, who will gas after a round or two. Because Dave Allen on 4 days fucking notice is going to gas out in 2 rounds, and then Price maybe can take him out late. And it's ridiculous. So obvious. Sorry, go on, mate. Go on.
So I've been saying that I don't think there's anyone like in the top 20 who Price could beat. So let me just run through. I'll go off box rec. I know it's a shit one, but still. I'll say the name and you tell me if you think to beat him. Fury, if Price can beat them, sorry. Fury.
Fury knocks him out.
Klitschko.
Knocks him out.
Povetkin.
That would be like Povetkin would do him in a round, honestly.
Joshua.
Yeah, obviously Joshua does him in a round as well, probably.
Wilder.
Yeah, knockout.
Pulev.
Pulev can't punch, but he'd still knock him out.
Ortiz.
Yeah,
Ortiz would kill him.
Yeah,
Ortiz,
honestly, I think that's the worst.
Genuinely.
Parker.
Parker knock him out, probably in a round.
Tepper, we've been there, done that. Malik Scott. I reckon Malik Scott had stopped Price after about 8 or 9 rounds.
You know what? That's actually not a bad fight because that would actually be, if Price beat Malik Scott, then maybe he could argue and say, I deserve a shot against one of the big guys now. That's not, and Scott can't really punch, but I'd still probably say he could hurt Price.
Yeah, he's half retired though, Scott. He's not fought in a year. But apparently he's going after Eric Molina.
But that's not a terrible fight, though, Scott.
I reckon Molina or Duhaupas could end up beating Price somehow.
Molina would knock him out, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the fight they want. But I'm looking here, and like the bottom of the top 20 is Spilka. He'd definitely stop Price.
Yeah.
Because he's so quite tough.
Anyone who's that aggressive, and Spilka's got quite fast hands, he'd beat Price.
But like,
even someone like Bryant Jennings, who is literally half Price's size, would probably get to stop him. Takam would knock him out. The shots that Takam landed on Parker, those would knock Price out.
So, like, the rest in the top 25, Brazil would probably just fucking manage to do a win against him. So, I don't know. But, like, Gerald Washington, who's shit, I don't know. He might beat him.
Even that Jarrell Miller would probably beat. Knock Price.
Miller would knock him out.
Well, the only one in the top 25 I'd be confident in picking on box rec in Price against is that Fedosov. But even that is a bit of an unknown fucking...
Even fucking Lucas Brown would knock out David Price.
Yeah, Lucas Brown
would win him, definitely. Again, that's a really fun fight. I don't know why they can't just...
David Price ain't no better than Richard Towers. He is no better than Richard Towers in my eyes.
No, just a big lumbering idiot. But
just a giant of a man who is absolutely shit scared.
What about Price versus Chisora now? Because I'm sure that could get made.
Chisora would find a way to lose.
Yeah, you know what? I'd back Chisora, you know. I reckon he'd work his body and fucking Price and he'd just shit it.
Maybe.
That's what I reckon.
I think Chisora is so far over the hill, though. Honestly.
Anyway, let's get on to the Parker situation, because we've been doing this about people who beat David Price all night. We get down to like 1,000 on box record, but yet still beat him.
Question in the chat that I'll answer.
Go on.
How soon do you reckon Usyk will go heavyweight? How successful do you think he'll be? Well, I think he's planning to get he's going to try and get all the belts and then move up. So I think they said 2 years. I think he'll beat anyone who's not abnormally sized.
Is that Usyk? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like say Fury for example. I think he'd be too long.
What are you classed as abnormally sized, like Fury size?
Like 6'6", so that's like Joshua and that. I think he can about handle that. But
what about a 6'4" Cuban?
Oh, he'd smash fucking Ortiz.
Ortiz is big though. He's a lot bigger than Usyk.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I still that'd be a good fight.
I'd like that.
But I think guys like Fury, because they are obscenely big. You know what I mean? Fucking 6'9", 6'10" guys is just fucking ridiculous. If you're 6'2",
you could literally just stick an arm out in it, and
that's all we do. If you're not like David Price, if you've got a proper jab, you can fucking pump out. You've got to find a way around it then, and it's a bit of a nightmare. But apparently, though, fucking Usyk was smashing Vlad in sparring.
Vlad's only 6'6", though, and he's not.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I said I'd have backed fucking Usyk to beat AJ ages ago. So.
Ainsley, Usyk with 4 days training against David Price.
Stops him in 3 rounds. But you know what? I'm being deadly serious with that though. Look at what Usyk does. He just smashes his body, won't he? And he'd be like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Like Price is the wrong sort of abnormally sized guy because honestly, like Price is that sort of heavyweight where literally anybody has a chance against him. I can't really think of anyone similar in the past, but like he is so fragile. But yeah. Shep.
Is he dead?
No, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah.
What were you saying? Sorry. Are we going on to the next bit? I've got.
Anyone could beat Price really on the day. But
yeah, I agree. And and I would back most cruiserweights to be able to knock Price out as well.
Oh, imagine Price against Lebedev. Because Lebedev's got a fucking like Lebedev's chin's just ridiculous. Like Glovaki beat fucking
would be a cruiserweight. Tepper's like 5'11".
Yeah.
Chin Price.
He's fucking He came out of the kebab shop and chin Price. So
yeah, he literally walked in there with Donna meat in his hand and he chucking it to the crowd.
Yeah, he's a disgusting man, isn't he? Fucking Tepper.
What about Dave Allen on a month's notice?
No.
Against Price?
Yeah. So, all right. Dave Allen with a camp that he is happy with.
No.
No, you still don't think he could get to him?
Dave Allen is like...
He's got a good chin, though, Allen.
Yeah,
but again, like I don't know because we've not seen it properly. Like it's hard to say, but I don't know. There's I've always got doubts with David Price. Like I thought, well, literally, he could get beat off he could get beat off complete journeyman.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's vulnerable enough to lose to literally anyone. Yes,
if Price fought Gary Cornish, right, and I just say I fucking went on a mad session, slept through it, and woke up the next day and someone goes, "Oh, Cornish beat fucking Price last night," I would not remotely be surprised. Like,
yeah, there are almost no heavyweights where you would be shocked if they KO'd Price.
I'm just looking at the Brits here, and like Cash Ali had C to him.
Fuck's sake.
I'm going for the top 15. Dominic Akinlave, don't know who he is, I'll give him a chance. Nick Webb, don't know who he is, I'll give him a chance. Ian Lewison, he can punch, so if it goes in the first 4, he could do it.
Price again, that wouldn't be a bad fight.
Sam Sexton, he doesn't punch that hard, but actually, in fact, Sexton got chinned off Price, didn't he?
Anyway,
but yeah, right. Let's move on from Price.
He's not interesting enough to warrant this level of discussion. But so we're talking about. I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on Fury. I mean, he's retired, then he's unretired. Like 2 hours later, it's all pretty boring. I mean, he's just playing until he gets banned for drugs, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just sick of his shit. It's just fucking. I don't know. Anyone can just still be like thinking it's funny or laughing at it. Like seriously, he's a grown man who he's not even having a mental breakdown. He's just a stupid, and he just thinks that this is funny. And if he spouts enough shit, people will forget that he's fucking got to hear him with UCAD in about 6 weeks and all this other shit that's going on. But whatever.
It was funny the first time he pretended to retire. Now, about 20 times after. It's not funny anymore. It's pathetic. Just get a grip in it. You're a grown man.
Yeah.
Is Shep dead again?
Yeah, fuck him. But it's just made me laugh. Peter Fury was like trying to act like a victim again last night, wasn't he? To some degree.
I haven't seen what he said.
But like he never apologised properly for it, like fucking all the fans over. And then like obviously today that he's deleted the tweets. Has he?
They don't care.
But then like not, and then obviously Tyson's just gone mental again today. So
yeah, I don't really care about it anymore either. I just feel like I want them to just make a decision, ban him or don't ban him, and then we can get on with splitting the belts up. Like, get on with it. Get Ruiz Parker, mate. Get Ruiz against Parker, mate. Then that would make the Parker Joshua. If that was a unification, that would be a huge fight for next year.
But it's like what I said. I think someone put it in the fucking WhatsApp earlier when I'll not name who it was, but a certain Irish journalist decided to put fucking Marciano and Fury in one tweet, and then tried making out that it's facts, so I can do it. But no, anyone try to compare Marciano and fucking Fury is a fucking idiot. And Fury's legacy, if he doesn't fight again, which is I'd say more likely than not, is going to be a man who's lied, pulled out of fights, lied some more, and also had a number of a couple of drugging issues hanging over him. That's not exactly a fucking glowing legacy to leave, is it? And having won one world level fight, which is the same as fucking like Hasim Rahman if he beat Lewis, retiring off that and then try to claim his son fucking great, but whatever.
Well, yeah, but I think Rahman just landed one big punch, didn't he? Whereas Fury did outbox Vlad, which is I think always a bit more impressive and less luck involved. But anyway, forget about Fury because it's going around in circles. I think we'll have to wait a week or two before we find out the truth. We've got loads of good questions this week. If I can just load them up. Someone's echoing a little bit. We have a good one to start off. Carpy, you want to start off with this one?
Go on.
Now, sorry, let me just get it up in the chat. Jason Chukwu's not in the chat this week.
Is he not? I'm sure I've seen him earlier.
I put his name in the description of the pod, and he didn't even show up. But it was basically the question was who is wasting their career most of any fighter in the sport at the moment. And he gave a few examples. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, we forgot to do the Parker Joshua stuff, by the way.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm going with Mikey Garcia.
Well, Garcia's back now, though, isn't he?
Yeah, but who's he fighting?
Dejan.
He's fighting
signed? Is it signed?
Yeah, Zlatikainen said it is. So.
It's not signed. And he wasted 3 years on some crusade against Bob. Looked at the PBC when the good times were rolling in. Wasted all that time. Could have got paid shitloads with Bob. Fucked it all off. Now he's done nothing.
It's a similar situation with Garcia's already got the wins to be in the Hall of Fame, though, so he doesn't really need to do anything else.
Hall of Fame worthy?
Yeah.
Really?
He was Hall of Fame worthy when he was beating fucking Remillard at NABO level, mate.
I wouldn't like. There's certain people I'd cry about going in the Hall of Fame, but if Mikey Garcia went in it, I'd probably like, yeah, fair enough, because he did quite a fair bit.
The funny thing is, obviously I'm joking. I don't think he's Hall of Fame worthy yet. I hope he will get there one day. But he actually does have some really, really good wins, even though he hasn't fought for 3 years.
Why do you like Mikey Garcia so much?
Because his ring attire, when he wears the cowboy hat into the ring, I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Genuinely, I do like that. I hadn't seen him before. I think the first time I saw him was against that Argentinian guy, sort of 2011, I think it was, or something. I didn't know who he was, but he wore a white cowboy hat to the ring, and I thought that's really fucking cool. And I was intrigued because I found out he was Robert Garcia's brother, and I can remember watching in retrospect a few of Garcia's fights. I remember the Corrales fight; that was good fun. And I like boxer punches, Sam. You know this. That's my favourite style. anyone who can box but has that sort of that ability to sort of drop a guy with a single shot. I think that's the best, most exciting style that any fighter.
What do you make of the Mikey Garcia-Salido fight?
Garcia absolutely dominated him. Has anyone dominated Salido like that since then? No. Salido's gone right back up to the top of the division. Garcia made him look shit. That's how good Garcia is. Garcia would destroy Vargas if they ever fought. He would destroy idiots like fucking Stephen Smith. He'd absolutely wipe him off the planet. He wouldn't lose a round to Miura. I like Miura as well, but he's way too basic.
I'm like looking.
I'm going to say it now because I know that Zlatikani gets a bit of hype in the UK because he's had a couple of good performances against British guys and stuff. And we like Dejan. He's a nice guy. Talks to the fans. He's an exciting fighter. Garcia is going to absolutely ruin him.
Oh,
he's going to make him so shit. I'll tell everyone now, that's not a competitive fight. Garcia will absolutely take him to school. And people will say, oh, fucking hell, Garcia's back. Garcia never left. He's amazing. He was in my top 10 pound per pound. He'll be back in there as soon as I can justify it, as soon as he gets another win or two. He's great. He's exciting to watch. You've got the boxing skills. There's a little bit of vulnerability because he has got dropped before, which is exciting. But also he's got the ability to. How many knockdowns are there in the average Garcia fight? Like 5 or 6. He knocks guys down all the time. It's brilliant. He's a really, really, really exciting fighter, and I think he's an interesting guy. He's got a good sort of family story. I like his what's his name? The granddad Garcia, the old man.
I forgot
the white moustache. He's great. I like him in the corner. And I like Robert Garcia as well. I think he's an interesting character.
Like he was out for 2.5 years, and he fought like Rojas, and he wasn't like a complete idiot. He beat that AO, didn't he, for the featherweight?
He was like he was like 2 divisions smaller than.
Garcia. Oh yeah, he was. But he wasn't like but I mean. Fucking hell, man!
He wasn't like a bin man. He wasn't. We're not talking. David Price level,
right? Yeah. Stephen Smith wouldn't be allowed to fight Rojas now. Now he wouldn't be allowed to. So that's what I'm sort of getting at. Is that he'll come back off of that break and fight people who, like, if Rojas were put to her and said Stephen Smith, he'd want it to be a final eliminator or for a world title.
Yeah, there would need to be some sort of incentive. Garcia took it as a stay busy tune-up. Yeah. Which shows you the level they're at. Do we think Garcia would have lost 8 rounds to Pedraza? I don't think so. I think he would have knocked Pedraza out, to be perfectly honest. No, I just really like Garcia. I've always liked him. I think he's really exciting, and I hope to see him in. I'd love to see him against Linares. If assuming that Garcia beats Latikanen and Linares beats Crawler again, I think that could be a brilliant unification fight.
Yeah.
Really, really high level boxing in that one. And I would back Garcia to knock Linares out, I think.
Yeah, but I think Linares might move up before that. I try and get.
Actually, funny. We've just had one of the first questions this week, which we've just answered. Basically, was do we think 130 pounds is one of the best in the sport? Given the mixture of action and competitiveness. And I think, yes, almost all of the top guys are action fighters in that division.
I think the best 2 divisions at the minute is, I think heavyweights might get a bit more exciting now if the belts just get flipped about everywhere. But cruiserweight's pretty good, and I think 130 is very good.
130 is very good. I think featherweight could be really good, but it's not quite there yet.
I think people are using that as sort of a transition weight, though, now. They sort of... Because they can see what's happening at 130, it's like, I'll just jump on.
But if you look at the champions at 126, Selby, Russell, Valdez, and
Frampton.
And then you've got Santa Cruz in there, you've got Cuellar in there, you've got Quigg in there in theory.
Yeah,
there's
true.
7 or 8 really good guys. I'm not, maybe they never fight each other, but I think if you put those 7 or 8 guys in a tournament, that would be really good, really high level stuff. It's just such a fucking shame tournaments don't happen more often, generally, in boxing. And then the other one is I forget, what is it? Super Fly or whatever. 118, where 115, isn't it? Where you've got Inoue, you've got
Calify.
And what have they agreed? They've got Estrada versus Inoue, which is apparently rumoured to happen next. and then Quadras Gonzalez.
Estrada's not going to fight anyway. He doesn't fight anyone anymore, does he? He's not
apparently,
interested.
it's being seriously talked about, and it will be on HBO. So you get a sort of semi-tournament there where maybe you get the Quadras Chocolatito rematch, and then you get Inoue Estrada, and then the winners face off next year, or sort of next.
And even the losers, I wouldn't even mind seeing the two losers then fight each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Like it's like we were saying at 1:30. You've got Salido's fighting Miura. The winner will get the Vargas rematch, and then the loser can fight fucking anyone else. Because
I'm sick of this with boxing. Like people losing and then being writ off and having to rebuild and have 2-3 pathetic fights and then fight someone half decent, then step up again. I don't really give a shit how many losses people have. Like Salido, for example, he's lost countless times, but I would still tune in every time he fights because he's excited to watch.
He's lost 11.
Yeah, losses shouldn't really matter. And that's the reason why the boxing's in such a fucking shit state, because everyone's scared to lose.
And you get guys who are fucking boring with artificial records being sold as like desirable products. And it's like, look, I don't give a shit about Josh Warrington because he's fucking boring to watch and he's never beaten anyone. And it is fucking annoying.
Well, we don't know. For all we know, Josh Warrington could step up to world level, be competitive, probably lose, but be in fun fights, and I'd still tune in. I would be more interested in seeing him against decent people when he's probably going to lose than in fights he's definitely going to win. I don't care about it. I just want to see the best fight the best, or even not the best. I just want to see competitive fights at all levels where it doesn't matter if people lose. You can go again straight away in another meaningful fight. I don't need to see Josh Warrington lose to Selby, then have 3 fights against people with losing records, and then fight someone else who's going to lose to.
I think the problem you get is that the amount of fights we see where Hearn or Billett or whoever will say like, "Oh, this is a can't lose fight," as in, if the guy loses this, then I can't sell him as an A-side anymore. It shouldn't be like that. It should be that the loser. It doesn't matter if you lose. Like Cleverly Fonfara was a classic, wasn't it? Where it was like, it doesn't really matter who loses this unless they get absolutely destroyed, because it's a really good matchup and the winner gets credit, the loser gets credit. That's all you want, and I don't know why.
But they both won coming out of that. Like in the UFC, you need to lose like 5 fights in a row before they'll think about cutting you.
Yeah.
And even then, if you lose in good fights, no one gives a shit.
Yeah, exactly. You can become like, there's no shame in being a gatekeeper. Like I wish.
Yeah, everybody can't be world level. We've been over this before, but everyone seems to think that they are world level. It's a modern issue. But that's
what you get when you've got 6.
Shall I just segue into my little rant that I was going to do now?
Go on.
Go for it.
So it's about fucking Paul Smith, and I think Liam Smith's done it then today. So we all know what happened last week with Mike Towell, who obviously unfortunately died. Because he fought with his family and everything. Very sad story, but certain people are obviously trying to fucking use this now as a platform to preach and make points that they shouldn't be making off the back of it. So two people who've done it is Paul Smith and Liam Smith's done it today. I can't remember what Liam Smith's done, but basically what they've done is they decided to use this as a fucking as a reason to start preaching about people not slagging off boxers. So I think what Paul Smith put, what sort of thing, so many cunts, and that's what they are. I think it's fine to abuse lads, lacing up the boots and putting the gloves on, risking their lives every single fight. So many lives ruined by the one tragedy. Before criticising, think twice. All a boxer wants to do is his best to win and get out safe. Right? I don't see anybody. Well, there are the odd idiots who are fucking doing it, who are wishing people to die in this, that, and the other. But criticising people for taking shit fights is not fucking. What you can't use this as a fucking platform to try and preach about that. Try to weaponise a thing like this to make such a point. And like, I'm not going to try and do it because then it makes me look a cunt. But anything can happen, anything can go wrong at any time. So is it safe for supposed super middleweight monsters to be fighting fucking welterweights who've got like 2 wins and 20 losses, like his brother Callum has been doing? If you know what I mean. So I think before everyone fucking I think them two need to fucking have a look at themselves before they try to use that as a reason to fucking complain because they've been getting stick for taking shit fights. It's an absolute fucking load of bullshit, and it completely just weakens their argument in doing something like that anyway. But I'm not going to rant too much. I was going to go hard on it, but it's not really something to do. But
yeah, I know what you're saying, and yeah, I mean, it's boxing. Accidents happen, but at the same time, no one asked Paul Smith or Callum Smith or Liam Smith, for that example, to risk their lives. They're doing it because they're reasonably good at it, and it pays a wage. Same as anything. Every job's dangerous to a point. I mean, being a locksmith's not that dangerous, to be fair, but accidents happen and I could get killed in the van going to work. I don't demand people thank me for it, or if I do a shit job, say, "Oh, you can't criticise me. I could get killed on the way here." I mean,
I know.
It annoys me. It only seems to be the Smiths that do it.
Yeah, but it's like, well, because I like to get the reference in. Like, my dad used to work down fucking pit. You didn't see him fucking going out every day with fucking his fuck saying, "Don't you dare slag me off for doing this job when I earn £3 an hour, and I could die at any moment." It's just obviously everybody knows that, but that's my point, is that it's completely unsafe, all these mismatches. But I don't want to. There's another time to rant about that.
Yeah, it is a shame, and a young lad's lost his life. I mean, we shouldn't be going on about it too much.
It's not, but obviously, it's a bad one. I like some of the stuff that's coming out. I hope it's not true in terms of him having headaches and whatever.
Yeah, I just feel for Dale Evans as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Obviously, a lot of people forget about that, but he's going to have a lot on his plate thinking about that. So. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen the thing that Ricky Hatton started.
The Just Giving thing?
Just Giving thing, but that was up.
It's like 36,000, it was.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm just getting it up now, so I don't know if anyone... And it's 32,000 it's up to now.
Fair play.
Which is nice. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but if you go on Hatton's page, you pin the tweet if you just want to chuck a few quid on. Not saying you have to. Just saying it might be nice. And that's coming from me. I never say anything nice on here, so that's me. That's the nice thing I will say for the next 3 years.
The worst thing about Paul Smith and Liam Smith was it Liam or was it Callum or Stephen? What was the other fucker that did it? It
was Liam. Paul and Liam did it.
They screenshotted his wife's or girlfriend's Facebook message, didn't they, to do it? It's embarrassing, man.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, footballers have died and shit, but people slag them off. It's slagging people. It's criticism. You've got to be prepared to accept criticism. Like boxers more than any other sportsman seem to not want to take any criticism. But yeah,
where is Shep?
I don't know, but I don't know. So we appear to have lost.
Sorry, I was just trying to queue up the outro stuff. You finished your rant, yeah?
Yeah. Well, it was not so much of a rant, but yeah.
Right.
I've got a ridiculous Twitter rumor of the week.
Go on then.
Groves versus Eubank.
Oh yeah. Well, I heard this a couple of weeks ago. So.
At what weight would that be? I thought
Groves ain't going to 160, is he? So.
I thought it was Groves versus Chudanov. No?
Chudanov, yeah.
Well, I read the other day that the Chudanov Sturm situation is still far from rectified.
Right, I've got a question which I'm surprised no one asked, which is: has there, in light of Murray Abraham 2 getting announced for the Monte Carlo show, what was the most? I'm trying to think of rematches that can rival this one in terms of how pointless they are and how few people wanted them.
Well, I didn't want the Vlad Fury rematch because I just thought that'd be boring as fuck. But
I'll tell you what, Chisora Fury. No, I suppose that was.
It was, but then they sort of. Actually, yeah, that was pretty pointless. Actually,
but yeah, let's not do the hindsight thing. Let's try and think of rematches where just no one gave a shit before it happened.
Pascal Kovalev.
Yeah,
yes, that's a good one.
But at least but at least that was Kovalev wanting to fucking rip his head off, so we all got something.
No, but still, I mean, no one wanted to see it, really, did they?
No.
But I think the level of not wanting to see it is at least you knew what was going to happen. This is going to be two people throwing 6 punches around. I'm just trying to think.
Murray Abraham last time, it was a fucking boring fight.
Paul Smith Abraham was a fucking bad one. Even though I thought that it was a draw, that was still like I could not be arsed with a rematch.
No, but I feel like Smith earned the rematch in the sense that there was kind of unfinished business. Like Abraham hadn't really fought that well. He wanted to win in a more convincing way. Smith obviously thought he could beat Abraham and hadn't been given the decision first time. It kind of made sense for both sides. I just don't see what, like you said, it's an eliminator for the Ramirez belt, which just makes no sense at all. Like Abraham arguably lost every single round against Ramirez.
Well, he did lose every round. It's not even.
I think I gave him one round anyway when I scored it. And we know that if Murray wins, which he won't because he never beats guys like Abraham. If Murray wins, he'll be in line to fight Ramirez, and then that fight won't be able to happen in America. So they'll have to do it in Mexico or in
it'll end up being in Macau, won't it? That on a bob card.
Oh yeah, maybe, yeah, or give Pacquiao a homecoming in the Philippines or something. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a fucking culture shock. Jesus.
Yeah, but it's just it's such a fucking pointless rematch. I just thought I'd throw it out.
It's hard to pick one out more pointless than that. But
I'll tell you what. I mean, I know they never made it, but when they were talking about the Bradley Vargas rematch, that was pretty.
There was a bit of controversy that towards the end, though, wasn't there?
Yeah, but come on, like I didn't think it was enough.
Hold on, wait up. I'm sure there's been like there's a rematch on one of the PBC cards that was shit. I can't remember what it was now. I'm
trying to think. Wasn't there it was just talk, but there was talk about Guerrero Garcia getting rematched. I remember that, and just thinking, what is the point of that? And didn't Broner have it? No, he didn't have a rematch. Yeah, I know what you mean, AZ. There is a PBC one that's awful.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was now. I don't know.
Anyway, there's been a few, but Murray Abraham is right up there with just a fight that no one really wants. Not even Martin Murray fans want to see that again.
I've never been asked. Jacobs Mora. That's the one.
Well, but the first one, ended to it wasn't a satisfying ending, was it? Like,
true.
I could sort of understand. I mean, if they did cleverly Braehmer, let's be honest. That's not an amazing fight. I don't. Really
I wouldn't. Yeah, but I wouldn't mind that
because it ended weirdly, right?
But it wasn't a shit fight. It wasn't edgy C, but it was all right. I wouldn't. Yeah. That was a good question.
But anyway, we had another question about that, which was saying Murray Abraham to an eliminator on the Monaco show with potentially. Jason Souza against Stephen Smith for the WBA regular, I think, and then Warren against McDonald. So potentially, that's a pretty good,
great little card.
Yeah, pretty good show. I don't know who'd headline that. Probably Murray Abraham, I guess.
Yeah. But I would like Stephen Smith's comments on that earlier when he iced the artist formerly known as Brian King was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, his logic was that it would enable him to get a shot at the full title, wasn't it?
Which is fair enough. That is what it should be used for, though.
Yeah, and he said, to his credit, he
don't believe in the two title thing.
Stephen Smith said he didn't like having two belts. He was using it as a means to get a shot at the full title, and he never once said, "When I'm world champion, I'll unify." Like he never said any bollocks like that about being And I did think that was one thing that cleverly let himself down a little bit in the speech after the fight when he kept saying I'm a two-time world champion, and it's like, you're not though. Like you're 1.5 at best. Anyway,
but yeah, it was sort of good to see one that he iced Brian, so that's another L to add to his back catalogue that's growing.
I've got a good one. I know he's a big fan of the domestic scene.
Go on. Yeah.
If Scotty Cardle wins on Saturday against Kevin Hooper, he'll get the British belt outright because he'll have had 5 defenses.
Fuck's sake.
has he beaten an even good domestic lightweight? Like his title reign has been awful.
Even for British level, that's bad.
Yeah, exactly. Even for British level, he hasn't beaten like a top 5 opponent.
I've got it here. So he won it off Craig Evans. What? He can't. As if. So what it'll have been is that he's beat Craig Evans. He beat fucking Dodd, drew with Dodd, then fucking beats Kevin Hooper. Kevin Hooper is shit, by the way.
Yeah.
Really, he is like Dodd would.
He'd still need another win because he drew with Dodd.
Yeah, but it isn't. It's just a defense. You don't have to win.
Do they count that as just a defense? Do they? If you drew,
yeah, it's just a defense.
I think you have to win 3 times.
It's like in wrestling, Carpy, when if Triple H, if he gets disqualified, he keeps the belt, doesn't he? So it counts. They've copied wrestling rules basically.
Tom Stalker should just manage to draw his way to a belt, though, or win a belt, and then just draw his way through it.
You know what? If Stalker fought fucking Cardle, I'd probably back Stalker.
Cardle. I mean, it says a lot that someone earlier. I was saying earlier that I've been nagging about this. I had a daydream, an epiphany yesterday, and I was watching Stephen Orman getting iced by some Hungarian journeyman, and I suddenly realised Stephen Orman versus O'Hara Davis makes perfect sense. That's a perfect crossroads fight. So I was tweeting Hearn, and O'Hara Davis obviously Googled his own name. I didn't tag him. He replied saying, "Oh, you want me to fight the guy that got knocked out by some guy that I knocked out in 3 rounds?" And I said, look, genuinely, I wasn't trying to like disrespect you or anything. I was saying that I think you'd win the fight. I just think it's a good fight for you at this stage. It would be a good name on your record. And then someone said, "What about Scott Cardle?" And I just thought there is just no way Gallagher would go near that fight. I think I would back Davis to beat Cardle, right? We'd all back Luke Campbell to beat Cardle, definitely.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a guy who's arguably not in the top 5 British lightweights. And
he's campaigning at 140, sort of, isn't he? But
but do we think Cardle is in the top 5 British lightweights?
No.
Well, let's go through the British lightweights. Just a quick.
Crawler, Flanagan, Matthews, Campbell. There's 4.
Dodd,
off the top of my head straight away.
There's Stalker, Joe Murray, Kevin Hooper, Craig Evans. Then there's just a few idiots, but like.
I'd say Dodd beat him both times, so I would put Dodd above Cardle.
Yeah, well, he got him out first time.
It was a bad stoppage. I know what you're saying.
Stoppage.
I don't know. I think Dodd was winning, and then he did. I think the stoppage was fair. I thought he was exhausted, but second fight, Dodd definitely
was a robbery.
100%.
Adrian Gonzalez, he'd probably beat Cardle.
I'm trying to think of what about a guy like Tommy Coyle against Cardle? I don't know.
That'd be a blood and guts war. That.
Yeah, that would actually be quite a good fight.
I would want to see that.
I seen it. Cardle's dad tweeted something the other day. Something like, "Oh, Scott's never been cut by a glove. It's always been headbutts." Like, as it fuck, he gets cut at weigh-ins. That cunt.
I don't like Cardle, and I hate the way they use the British title as like a sort of consolation prize for guys who aren't good enough to fight at European level.
Interestingly enough, now if Cardle wins, that'd be the first time that Gallagher's got someone to actually fucking keep the British belt. I think so. They're going about all these things that they have.
If Cardle loses, that would just be the ultimate icing on the cake for Gallagher.
Yeah, but Hooper can't even punch though. He's like.
I know, of course, he's been completely hand selected. They wouldn't fight Dodd again. They refused. And if you're turning down Sean Dodd at British level, you've got a problem. Calling yourself a champion, ridiculous.
I like Dodd.
I don't mind. Good, honest fighter, I think.
Would you say that Dodd's win over Buckland is better than Cardle's win over Craig Evans? What's probably Cardle's best win?
Yeah, but Buckland had come out of retirement, hadn't he?
Sort of, but I think he got a win just before that, though.
Yeah, but he was like well past his best, I think.
It's just he won last month.
I know, but he retired and then he came back and now he's fighting bums.
Yeah, true.
But anyway, Carpy, one for you.
Yep.
Does Fury being on coke give AJ the mental edge if they fight? Because AJ is unbeaten against drug addicts who don't pay up.
I don't know. Has he ever had to beat up a 6'9" drug addict?
Yeah, maybe not. He's good at beating up older women.
You'd imagine he was beating up on small white boys, wouldn't you? Not massive, big gypsy blokes.
Yeah, not.
Also, mountains. At the same time, Peter Fury has probably beat up more people for tick money than Joshua has.
John Fury.
No, Peter and John, they outclass Femi in that department. Not Tyson necessarily doesn't, but as a family. I think Femi pales in comparison to them.
I think Peter and John, I would be much more scared of bumping into them at night than I would be Tyson. I think Tyson's kind of, he might be a bit mental, but he's sort of go punch you and then sort of apologise if he really hurt you. Whereas I think Peter and John have got a nasty streak in them.
Well, John would gouge your eyes out.
Yeah, exactly. John would gouge your eyes out at a fucking county fair or wherever it was.
Yeah, but you see, I reckon John, he'd only fuck you over if you were a cunt with him. But I reckon Peter's...
but he'd really fuck.
Oh, yeah, but I reckon Peter just seems too nice and it all seems a bit fake. I reckon Peter'd wait till your back's turned and glass you or something.
Like torture. Right. We've got one final question. I had to get Dewey off the call because it would have really upset him. After Cleverly's win at the weekend, has there ever been a more hollow victory for a British fighter at world level? That's very harsh.
Wow.
There's a kernel of truth there, I think. Oh dear.
No, fucking.
I think there's been worse wins.
McDonnell on the Froch Groves 2 undercard beating that fucking Ting Tong, and I'm sure that was his name. When he got the fake belt, that was a really fucking mean. Tab Ting Daeng Naratrawat. Yeah, that was a great win.
At world level, I don't know though. I mean, it was like European level, but at world level, fucking hell, maybe. I mean, I thought Burns against Gonzalez was pretty bad when Gonzalez just gave up.
Burns against fucking D Rocco. Use lols.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll get on to Burns in a sec for the previews, but he could have another De Rocco style job on his hands this weekend, I think.
Fuck Burns, man.
Right. Did anyone else get any other questions, or shall we?
Wait, because we still haven't fucking cleared up the thing that was going to clear up, and that is whether Parker shot it from AJ or not, and he has.
He has.
Okay. Copy. Get involved.
He definitely hasn't. Not at all.
Ainsley, explain. I'll be the referee here. So, Ainsley, what is your assertion? What are you claiming?
Well, my beef with it is that we've slagged Hearn for doing it with Femi and so.
No. That's
yeah.
Forget that. What's your premise? What's the premise of the argument?
So he fucking. When did he fight Takam? Was it April?
April, yeah.
April or May.
So he fought him then, right? And they were and they didn't want to fucking push that through straight away. They were still oh well, he needs a couple of fights. Then he went from fighting Takam to fighting fucking Saul Hermano, who is a complete idiot and basically quit like Dimitrenko did. Then he fought Dimitrenko, who quit. And I was oh, look at how much he's improved. And then all of a sudden, look at this little easy opportunity that's come along. I'll take that.
No, but they're not, it's not just that, is it? They're waiting around. Why should they wait for Hearn to figure out if AJ is going to fight Vlad or not?
They don't have to. They don't have to, right? And that can't be a unification. It's in the rules of every governing body. They would have to fuck about massively to get that sorted to be a unification.
But that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're currently trying to do.
They're not going to do it. We know for a fact, and you know this for a fact, he's not fucking fighting Klitschko in November.
Yeah, we know that, but then why should Parker have to wait 2-3 weeks for them to finally come out and say, all right, we'll fight you?
Maybe not. Yeah, but they're fucking mandatory so they can force it. Stop fucking coming out with a little bullshit, right? They got in a position that they wanted to get in. They said, if we get into the position of being mandatory, then we control our own destiny. That old bullshit that gets fucking banded out every time. They got into that position, and then they fought some absolute chump because he's fucking from that neck of the woods, and then they fought Dimitrenko. And we all said we're going to be shit. And if AJ had fought Dimitrenko and he'd have done what happened the other day, everyone would have been fucking going mental. And I'm not an AJ fanboy. I want him to get smashed because I can't be arsed with having the fucking casual dad fucking gloating about him being right. But fucking...
So, Ainsley, let's say Parker gets the WBO belt. and then he fights AJ in, say, March, in the unification, then he hasn't. You're saying he's ducked him, but all he's done really is just made the fight bigger, I suppose.
Yeah, but I don't think it does make it any bigger.
Yeah, but do you genuinely think he's going to avoid the fight, like, permanently? I don't.
Right, I think. Well, I don't even think when he beats fucking Ruiz, they're then going to want to do the little fucking. Even though they'll fought at home, like fucking Bellew's doing. Oh, I need a homecoming with my belt, so he'll fight some idiot then. Then there'll be a reason to fight someone else. Then a mandatory will come along. There's always another reason. And like saying, oh, they've got this money. If they could fucking bid tomorrow and try and get that fight there. They've chosen not to. They're always ready with the excuses. And I'm always wary of people who've got excuses straight away. And it's not one or two. They're fucking straight away there. Oh, we can't do it for A, B. There's always a reason. Like,
but it'll be bigger in 6 months if he picks up a belt and they can call it a unification, though. No.
Yeah, but is he going to do that? I don't think he would. But because what's going to happen then? What's going to happen then? And you know for a fact, both sides then are going to fucking be as stubborn as they can. Because Joshua's going to be like, well, I'm not moving anywhere. Why should I go? I've got all this. And Parker's going to do the same. So all that's going to happen in him getting that belt is it's giving fucking both of them a reason to play each other's side off against the other. And then they're not going to come to an agreement. And then both sides will blame each other. And inevitably the blame will fall on Hearn's side of the fence. Rightly or wrongly. That was what will happen. It's ridiculous. He shouldn't have got into the fucking... Why bother if this is what he's going to do? Like, I just... Like,
so you don't think the fight will happen at all then?
Well, no. I think that because it's just bringing in more obstacles, and it gives people excuses and
making the fight bigger.
You can argue that, but you know for a fact that Parker is not going to want to fucking travel if he gets that belt.
Well, I think he would if the money was on the table, and the money will be on the table if it's a unification.
Hearn said in IFL interviews, Parker's up for coming. He was up for fighting Price over here, wasn't he? So he's definitely up for travelling.
Yeah, he was up for fighting Price, but he wasn't bothered about Joshua. Why is that?
Because Joshua doesn't want the fight.
No.
Why would Hearn be offering Parker to fight Price if AJ was so up for the fight? Why would that be necessary? Because they've been trying to fight Pulev. They tried to fight Stavern. Parker was the third option. Now they're trying to fight Vlad. They don't really want that fight either.
They're not trying to fight Vlad.
Yes, they are.
Look, I don't think it's fair to say Joshua's ducking Parker or Parker's ducking Joshua. I think both of them know it's a way bigger fight in 6 months or whatever, and they're both young guys. I mean, I know what you mean, Ainsley. I think if Parker had forced it, he probably could have got the
if he forced
it. But I don't think there was any need to force it. You know?
If this had been the other way around, and Parker does, I don't give a shit what people say. Parker seems to get treated with a different level than everybody else. He can just go and do what the fuck he wants. And I was just like, it's fine.
No, not at all. Because this time last year, AJ was way up in the IBF rankings. Was he calling out Vlad? No. Was he trying to sort of pressure a fight with any of the other champions?
Well,
no.
they was in the dark. They was in the dark doing fucking dodgy deals with Kathy Duva, weren't they, to get Fury stripped and then fight that fucking idiot.
As soon as the belt became vacant, they went
before.
Yeah, it's what Parker's doing. So I think Parker and AJ are using the exact same tactics.
AJ wasn't mandatory for a title, and then purposefully negotiating something with something else. And he's clearly gone and done this because Ruiz randomly pulled out of the fight with Yui Fury. Now it's fucking obvious why that's happened. So it's not all he's just his answer to this. They've decided before anything else has happened, he's probably not going to fight, so let's engineer a move. It's just as bad. It's worse. It's mandatory for one, and he's just fucking mugged about. It's fucking bullshit. He's gone from fighting Takama was decent to fighting two absolute arseholes. Like, complete and utter idiots. Like, the last two fights have been an embarrassment. If that had happened over here, people would be fucking going mental, trying to set fight at the O2 or some shit.
I don't think Dimitrenko's that much worse than someone like, a year ago, Joshua was fighting fucking Cornish, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean?
But he wasn't. If he was mandatory for a fucking world title when he fought Cornish, I'd have fucking given him more shit, but he wasn't.
Could Joshua have got a world title shot a year ago? Yes, definitely. He brings enough money, definitely has enough support, could have made a huge arena show out of it, definitely could have got one if he wanted to, but he didn't because he wanted to wait until one became much more easily available. Exactly what Parker's doing. They're just a year apart. They're doing exactly the same thing, just a year apart, and I think the fight will definitely happen next year if they've both got a belt. I think it will definitely happen 100%.
But I think
it'll be huge, mate. It will be huge, much bigger than. It could even be a stadium fight next year.
Try to find an easier option than the fucking lineal heavyweight champions. A bit different to try to find an easier option to a guy who got fucking rocked off Dillian White and's been fighting bums since he fucking turned pro. And the guy you keep saying that you're going to beat left, right, and centre all the fucking time.
If Hearn was constantly saying, "We've offered Parker the fight, we've offered Parker the fight, we've offered Parker the fight," and he was still going after Ruiz, I'd be inclined to believe you. But as that's not the case, I don't think he's ducking him. I think he's just taking a route that's open to him at the minute.
And I think both parties are very happy to wait 6 months and do the fight as a unification.
Yeah, but this is right now. How many times we've seen it? It's it'll make it bigger. They are both going to be fucking playing the game. Then they're both going to be at it, and you know for a fact. And then it's just not. It'll probably not. It's going to be another fact that probably don't happen, and then Parker will get beat off some idiot at some point.
I'm very, very, very. I would be really surprised if it didn't happen. Really surprised. And I think the only way it wouldn't happen is if one of them lost in their next fight, which would be a surprise. Let's say Andy Ruiz chins Parker, or Jarrell Miller chins Joshua. Actually, that's a good one. We'll agree to disagree on this one. I don't think we're gonna agree. But who do we actually think? If you had to put a name now, if you've got to put your money on the table, who's Joshua fighting in November?
It's not Jarrell Miller, I'll tell you now, because it's too dangerous for everything.
I don't think Miller's a dangerous fight at all. I think
he's shit, but it can hit very hard. That's it. But that alone's a risk. I said Joel Washington ages ago. One, because he's with Heyman, and I still think he's got an option. And two, he is perfectly shit enough. Like he's like the perfect candidate.
Okay, you're saying Washington. Carpy, have you got any idea?
I still think it might be Pulev.
Pulev don't want it.
Yeah, apparently not. Which is
like
weird,
someone said the other day, everyone's seen the money they gave Martin, they gave Brazil, and now if they're kind of lowball people for that same fight with less money, I mean Pulev's got a bigger name factor than Brazil. No fucking knew who Brazil was.
They're probably offering Pulev 30% of what Martin got paid.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and he's going to take a loss, so he wants to be paid for it. Which is rightfully so. If other people have been paid shitloads to take that loss, you should get paid the same. Yeah,
but I'm not one for fucking bigging up Charles Martin, but Martin got paid because he had the belt. What's fucking Pulev got?
What did Brazil have?
Pulev's got a much better resume than Martin.
He has, but what options does Pulev have? He can't go and get some money in another fight.
Pulev is valuable because he would be Joshua's best win by a mile.
Yeah, but he's not to the level that Martin was. Like Martin could have. And it probably wouldn't have happened, but it would have been very likely that they'd have made fucking Martin v. Wilder if the Joshua fucking son didn't get dropped. But Pulev's got no value, for fuck's sake. He's just fought Chisora and probably got about $8,000 for it. He's not, and that was fucking 5 months ago. He's got nothing lined up. He's barely fighting. He's obviously not. He's not in a position where he can be saying, X amounts, unless he's getting offered, and I mean real shit money. And I very doubt that they're going to be offering him like fucking $50,000.
I'd be surprised if they offered him much over $100,000.
He'll be getting offered quite a bit more than that, because he could just play the game and pull the mandatory, and then he's getting 25%.
I think Pulev. We're talking about Pulev, right?
Yeah.
I think he'll be offered maybe $250,000, and he will say, "Well, you gave Charles Martin like $4 million, and you gave probably Brazil $1.5 million or something. So what the fuck,
Well, it should be with him, and then.
And I completely agree that that Martin deserved a bit more than the others because he had the belt, and as the champion, you can demand a bit more. I agree with that, but I don't agree that Dominic Brazil should be getting 3 times as much as Pulev.
But he got that. He got that because of his manager, and we both know that. That's why. He doesn't make it right, but that's what's happened. So it's not like
But then Hearns, you can't expect to overpay and then lowball everyone else. It doesn't work.
No, but this is an argument. But what I'm saying is though, like they got paid an inflated amount, but there's like a reason behind it because they were just fucking licking Eamon's off for some unknown reason. Well, because he's probably got options on Joshua more than likely.
Yeah, 100% had options on him. Yeah, definitely.
And I still think that he's got another option. I'd be very surprised if he took one option on Anthony Joshua. And this is why I think it's going to be Washington.
Yeah, you've said it's going to be Washington. Carpy, sorry, I missed who you predicted.
I still think it will be Pulev.
You think it'll be Pulev?
Yeah.
I thought I've got Jarrell Miller in my head for some reason. Although there's so many reasons why it won't be Miller because he's really he's nowhere near as famous as.
Yeah, but this is the thing. He's shit, but he can punch and he can punch.
He's so crude, honestly. Joshua Knox. Maybe he doesn't stop Pulev. Maybe I could see that one going.
It'd stop Pulev.
Maybe Pulev's quite a lot better than the other two.
Yeah, but Chisora hurt Pulev, man.
Yeah, but maybe. But I thought Pulev pretty much won every round of that fight.
Yeah, but he got hurt a couple of times.
Maybe, but I think for fuck's sake, some autism thing has just shown up on my feed. Block that. For fuck's sake. Shit. Yeah, I've still got it. I've got this horrible feeling in the back of my mind. He's going to announce Big Baby Miller, and it's going to be some mental Sky promo of like him wearing a fucking diaper or something, doing a shit on a desk. It's going to be ridiculous. Or Hearns just going to backdoor it completely and just stick price in and cash it out.
Let's get the rankings up. Why don't we do that?
You know what would actually make sense now? Would be someone like Chisora. Obviously, Chisora's not coming off a win.
Right, I got to go.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye.
Right, well, Parker's number 1. He shot it. Pulev's number 2. He's probably going to shit it. Hey, number 3. Well, they're not going to pay him more than they have to. Oh, actually, we might have just found our answer sat here at number 4.
Duhapa?
Yeah, Duhapa. Then Ruiz at 5, who's getting parked out. Takam at 6. I wouldn't be surprised if they took that.
Duhapa isn't a bad shout.
Yeah, Duhapa, Takam.
Yeah.
Kid Grenai, who the fuck's that? Miller's at number 9.
We found it, mate. I think Duhapa's a good shout. Durable, tough. Doesn't really get KO'd early. If Joshua KO'd him early in the first half of the fight, that would be quite a good statement because he has got a very good chin. But equally, doesn't punch especially hard. Is quite slow. That ticks a lot of boxes. Yeah, that could be the one. Yeah.
Who the fuck's this guy's in the rankings here? That cannot be right. They've got someone listed, Kid Grenai, right? And I've just searched him, and on BoxRec, he was apparently a boxer in the 1930s.
Oh, right, okay.
And he had a 1-1 record, so whoa.
That's the state. That's the state of the heavyweight division. Hearns probably paid to get him put in the rankings. Right, Ainsley, just quickly before we go, because I've got to hop off as well. But do you have anything to say about the card on Friday in Glasgow? Burns against
shit. I think everyone knows my thoughts on fucking Burns now. I'm just sick of it.
Give us a prediction. Do you think Broner will be in the arena?
Probably not. Will he even be allowed in this country?
Yeah, I was thinking that because I was told that he might be travelling over for it, but I thought he might have problems getting in here. But I don't know. I don't know how it works. And what's your prediction for the fight, mate? Do you think Burns points or stoppage?
I don't know who this Relic is. I don't know. But if
I've never seen him fight.
If Relic's not completely embarrassing, he might have a chance. And people are saying that Burns has got a chance against Broner. I mean, are you fucking serious? I know we all love to hate on Broner and that, but seriously.
Apparently, the winner of Sosa against Smith is going to have to fight Fortuna in a rematch, or that's in the contract apparently. Interesting. So I think Fortuna might knock Stephen Smith out, to be honest.
Oh yeah, Stephen Smith can punch a little bit. He might end up chinning Fortuna. Fortuna's quite average.
He's quite open. That'll be a fun fight, actually. Maybe I might cheer for a Smith for once to win.
Yeah.
But anyway, fuck all to look forward to, isn't there? I'm just going to get the schedule up.
Yeah, I mean for Friday, sorry, because it's not Saturday, it's on Friday. I'm not really going to bet on it. Cal's not on for the betting advice, but White got hurt early, didn't he, against AJ? Very early, as in the first round.
Yeah, White, yeah.
So I might have a little bet on Lewison in the first 4 rounds. See if he comes out and throws some bombs.
Apparently he's like 20 stone or something. That's what I heard.
Yeah, but he's always fat.
But apparently he's huge, like completely out of shape. And then the only other, I don't know about White Lewison. I think it could be a really messy, ugly fight again. Standard Dillian White. And then the only other one that's of interest is Leon Walsh is fighting Andrei Klimov on Saturday.
I tweeted about Leon Walsh earlier because I'd not seen the fight until a couple of weeks ago. So Leon Walsh against Paul Appleby. And I know it was a long while ago, but fucking hell. Appleby seemed to hurt him every time he threw a fucking punch.
He wasn't bad, Appleby. It's a shame he retired quite young.
But he wasn't fucking great, was he? And like Klimov, but I don't think like Leon Walsh is good as everyone.
Klimov's not very good. I've seen him a couple of times.
How is this a final eliminator, by the way?
Which belt is it for?
1 second. I'm sure it's for the fucking...
Oh, it's IBF.
Yeah, but they've done this before.
The IBF champ at Super Feather.
It's Pedraza, isn't it? But
it's Pedraza, okay.
Yeah, but fucking
Pedraza wouldn't be a bad fight.
But Klimov hasn't fought since last June, in which he lost to fucking Pedraza.
So Klimov's a gatekeeper. He's a gatekeeper. If Walsh can't beat Klimov, he's got no chance at world level.
No, but I mean, like, who was it? Dude, this has happened before where some cunts lost a fight for a belt, then in the next fight, they've ended up in a final eliminator for the fucking belt. It's just like...
It happens a lot. I mean, Stephen Smith, he's just lost, and now he's in an eliminator.
It was Denis Shafikov, that was it. Got beat for the fucking belt, and then I swear they put him in like a fucking final eliminator for him, like a fight later. It's like, what the fuck?
I like Shafikov. He's a good little fighter. I think he's very underrated. He's a fun fighter to watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll see how that goes. Walsh should beat Klimov pretty wide on points.
Oh God!
And like we say, if he's not beating Klimov well, then he's got no chance.
Prince Patel's back on that card.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't care though. I mean, what did he have? Like a draw or something, wasn't it?
He drew in his last fight and he got dropped. He got dropped in a 4-rounder and allegedly lost 3 rounds and still got a draw. So
terrible. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. I will play you out with a lovely bit of Welsh pride. Cheers, mate, and we'll pick it up again next week when Ricky Burns has been iced.
Hopefully, I'll probably put the pod on SoundCloud.
Yeah, someone was asking about that. We'll get it up on the next day or two, I think.
Yeah. Last week's was on a couple of days after, but yeah, should be on every Tuesday night after this week if we do it on a Monday. So yeah. Yeah,
we'll get a system going. And just to confirm, unfortunately, the special guest wasn't able to make it, but they will be back. I've just got a message off him, and he says he'll be on next week. So stay tuned.
And he'll be doing his segment next week, Foz's Corner, not to give away any ideas as to who it may be.
We've also got a new feature for next week called Smido of the Week.
Yeah.
Which all will be revealed shortly.
Yeah.
You mute yourself, mate. I'll play us out.
All right. See you next week.
Cheers.
Kovalev landed 35 of 95 punches in the first round. He was 24 out of 86 in the second round. So in the first 2 rounds, it is Kovalev who has averaged 90 punches thrown per round. Cleverly, average only 44 punches per round. He's 24 out of 88 after 2 rounds, and he's the guy who, coming in, had shown a very fast pace with a lot of punch output in his last few fights. Big right hand over the top by Kovalev, just missed, landing solidly.
Yeah, but as he threw that right hand, Jim, that's the first hard punch he had thrown in a moment. His punches were starting to lose steam. He throws one hard right hand right there, but the rest of his punches really don't have the steam on them that they had in round 1. Only that right hand. But if he connects with that right hand, it could be deadly. But everything else has died already, which is definitely working right into Cleverly's plan.
Yeah, Cleverly's gone 12 rounds, 5 fought in front of crowds who supported him like this one. It's Kovalev who's on the road. Hard left hook by Kovalev, momentarily stunned Cleverly. Comes back with another barrage, trying to go to the body. The further weaken Cleverly after that big left hook.
And great body work by Kovalev as well.
Hard right hand and down goes Cleverly. First knockdown of the fight, and just as we thought Kovalev might be wilting a little bit, he produced another powerful burst.
You better go ahead and try to finish him here, because if he doesn't, he's going to have his hands full in the next 2 or 3 rounds.
And how he goes about trying to finish him could be key. Not loading up too much, not punching himself out, mixing it up downstairs. Down again, Cleverly on the big canvas for the second time in the round. These are the first 2 knockdowns of his professional career.
I think he's in bad trouble now. That shot going down the end when he got hit while he was down, or body shot. Bad body shot.
Yeah, Kovalev showing good finishing instincts, throwing that hard hook to the body. Both previous performances this year were 3rd-round knockouts, and this referee may have stopped the fight. I can't tell. Big save by the Belgian. Wow. He waved his arms as though he's going to stop it. That's called saved by the bell.
That's called hometown cooking.
Yeah, I know, with a little help from the rest. That was all.